Good evening. I call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stimson? Here. Ware? Here. Conigan?
Here.
Grant?
Here.
Brickner?
Here.
Chair Treflet.
Here. Thank you. Now we need a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Their support?
Second.
Okay, Steve. All right. Thank you. All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The first one up tonight on the public hearing is amended Plan Development 2, 2023, including a site plan. Location is 30825 and 31361 Orchard Lake Road. And this is the shopping center. And who's my proponent?
Good evening. My name is Frank Jarbo from Symmetry Management.
Good.
You want me to
Go ahead and start.
Frank Jarbo from Symmetry Management. We're the developers for the site. I think that everybody's seen this. We're coming in for an amendment to the PUD. As you can notice, a large-scale development of this size takes a lot of planning. So the first approval that we did get, we went to the market, talked to a couple different retailers, moving some retailers around, like Buffalo Wild Wings wants to continue to stay. Unfortunately, the only site we have for them is the 5,000 square feet, but they need coolers on the backside. Part of the amendment today. A couple different other things that we did was, obviously, there was a larger retail box that we converted and made it smaller. It didn't change the footprint, overall square footage of what we're developing. It just, and actually the parking calculations stayed the same. It just makes the center a little more uniformed, better accessibility. We were discussing that with planning, and it turns out to be a major amendment to the PUD. So happy to hear any comments, any questions, discuss about it.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as mentioned, this is an amendment to the existing Hunters Square development. The development was reviewed by the Planning Commission and the City Council in 2024, and it was approved, but the development agreement was never recorded for this site. And the applicant is coming back for some changes. As he mentioned, he's looking to add a 503 square foot addition to the building on the south side of the property to add a cooler for Buffalo Wild Wings. In the southeast corner of the site, 82 spaces that were previously labeled as land-banked parking are now presented as spaces to be constructed, so that landscaping was removed. The northernmost tenant space, which is tenant space E, has been altered to place its loading docks indoors rather than the outdoor loading space that was on the previous set of plans. The next two tenant spaces, D1 and D2, have minimal changes to the layout in the rear. And the third tenant space, C2, has been reduced in size. The loading dock configuration is now the same as the D1 and D2 to the north. And a dumpster enclosure was added abutting the loading dock, and the tenant space to the north's dumpster enclosure was reduced from a double to a single enclosure. There's also now a fourth tenant space, which is C1 on the plans, and the area between the redevelopment buildings to remain unaltered has been eliminated, and parking between those two buildings has been reconfigured from one row into a small double row lot behind the building. And that, I believe, is where the previous land bank parking was. Some other minor changes were pavement replacement extents due to additional detention and pavement replacement modifications due to new electrical lines. In addition, I did note that since the plans were approved, the city has adopted its new master plan. So the PUD was qualified by the Planning Commission in August of 2024, and it was further approved on November 16th, 2023, or I'm sorry, that was the recommendation to the city council. And as mentioned, any changes that are noted today would need to be reflected in the PUD agreement and included in it when it does go to be recorded. So in the review, we have noted some minor issues. First, I did want to review the setbacks. There were some changes there, as we mentioned earlier with the cooler. The relief on the rear setback is changed just modestly from 75 feet to 69.59 feet. And so that's a reduction in the relief needed. And the reduction on the south side setback is from 75 feet to 61.03 feet. And it should also be noted that if the relief is granted, the relief should only apply to the minor building addition. And it's important that the Planning Commission doesn't, unless they wanted to, grant setback relief that would apply to the whole south side of that building. The areas in the southeastern portion of the site that are currently non-conforming with the required landscape area over by the building that previously had the gap and I believe now is 5 Below does not have a landscape area, and it was not proposed to change in the last set of plans, and it's not proposed to change in these plans either. As far as the drive-in restaurant goes, the deviation for the distance between the front yard setback has changed slightly from 58.59 feet to 58.92 feet. And that means that it's closer to compliance than previous plans showed. The off-street parking in these plans is something that we need to review further because the applicant did not have the correct calculation for usable floor area because they did not count the building addition in their calculation. The parking calculation is slightly different. In addition, the plans noted 18 land bank spaces and included those in the parking calculation, even though the land bank spaces were removed and there's no land bank spaces shown on the plans. Therefore, the deviation that's needed from the plans is, so they've only provided 1401 spaces and they're required 1417, so the deviation is by 16 spaces. And the plan provides 9 fewer spaces than before, and so this deviation would need to be updated to demonstrate the additional parking relief. The parking space dimensions needed to be labeled also, that was noted. There were some issues with the exterior lighting, and the last plans were conditioned on meeting the lighting requirements of the ordinance. I do want to point out that the lumen calculation shows pretty excessive lumens per pavement area. However, that didn't include the existing fixtures, and when those are included, it's only 4.5 lumens per square foot of pavement area, which is still in excess of the 2.5 per requirement. And at the end of our report, we did include a list of all of the relief that was requested as a part of this PUD, with any changes or modifications to that relief noted. Notably, this is the setback requirements that we just discussed, the parking requirement from 1401 spaces instead of the required 1417. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Carrie?
So basically what you're saying, that the modification on the PUD is rather minimal, but their math is wrong and they can fix the math, and that's what you're asking us to do. And I understand the other thing that he's asking for is because they're moving Buffalo Wild Wings from one side to the other side to give them a little extra room for a cooler. which would be an area that is supposed to be for parking, or loading, and it's not being used for that right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe the reason that it's a major amendment is because it is impacting relief from the standards that was approved as a part of the PUD.
No, I understand that the difference between a major and a minor, just a change. Everything seems to be a major change no matter what they do, except maybe changing their name, and they did that too. But, and I understand that it has to be treated as a major, and it'll go on to the city council for final approval. But did the other PUD, was that ever, did they eventually sign that PUD agreement, or is that still up in the air?
No, they didn't sign it, so that would need to be updated and finalized along with this amendment.
Yeah, so I guess since it's not really an amendment to an agreed upon PUD, it's a modification of what they asked for before. Would that be correct?
Through the chair, it's not an amendment to an agreement. It's an amendment to the approved PUD plan.
The old one,
Yes,
the real old, okay.
which has been approved subject to the agreement.
You know, the thing is that, I mean, from what I'm, well, I'm not, this was questions for you, and you answered my questions. Thank you, Julia.
Okay, any other questions? No? This is a public hearing. You can sit down, Mr. Jarbo. This is a public hearing, and anybody who wishes to speak to this topic, please come up to the stand and give your name and street, not the number, just the street, to the recording secretary.
Sure. My name is John Clarahan, Highview Avenue. I'm mostly here to speak about the next item, but seeing that this isn't an approved or a signed PUD agreement, just have a couple of items or questions, so.
Yeah, I'll just stick to this.
Yep. So with the lighting in our area, I'm just across Orchard Lake from this development. There is quite a bit of light pollution, so I guess I would urge the commission to make sure that we keep it within reason. I guess I don't know with the ordinances where we stand with lighting generally, you know, is 1 times good enough, or 2 times good enough, 3 times good enough, something like that. And then also, as I understand it, Orchard Lake is controlled by the county because it's a north-south road, so walking that area is pretty treacherous if you're trying to cross, and I don't know, you know, what types of plans have been made, what kind of studies have been done to maybe improve that. I know that that's not necessarily within scope of a PUD, but, you know, just keep that in mind, that there are young families around there that like to walk and make a healthy choice to walk instead of drive. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this topic? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing at this point. It's back to the commission for,
Just wanted to ask a few questions.
oh, okay. Well, ask away.
I mean, I appreciate what you're doing, and it's a vast improvement as to the way it stands right now. And I could tell that, I mean, you're required to have a lot of parking there, and I know that most of it was empty except if you were a Tesla driver. And, no, that was a bad joke. So you're not really changing that much. Have you gotten leases for these spaces right now? I mean,
Yeah, so I mean, what we've changed so far, obviously with a major development like this, there is going to be changes once we show the plans to the market. And probably the biggest change was that we had the 140,000 square foot box where the former Saks Fifth Avenue sat. And that's where, you know, there's not too many 40,000 square foot users out there. So we kind of took a step back and said, how can we reconfigure this? We don't want to build empty storefronts. So we were able to reconfigure it, salvage the parking. I think we do have a solution for the little bit of parking that we do are maybe short. But, you know, we're gaining traction now that people have seen saying, okay, majority of the tenants have vacated, so we can start our demo. Planning department was actually very good to work with us, saying that they would give us a demo permit while we go through this process and get this approved, which is very helpful to get this project up and running. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting a lot of traction, a lot of restaurants on the outlots, a lot of national tenants, a few local tenants too as well that are, wanting to be here, so it's actually gaining a lot of traffic finally as we come to, start this development.
Well, the other question I had is, I haven't seen it on today's stuff, but are you planning on parceling it off into separate sections?
So we are, what we're going to do is what's called a condominium. So we're going to condo it out. And what that allows is a lot of people just, sometimes see this as a big development, but what's on the backside of this is it helps with our financing. So there's certain financing tools that we can use for certain portions of the development and other financing tools that we use for other portions of the development. And in order to have not one financing tool blanket the whole thing, we'd have to do a condo.
It's an interesting concept. I really
Yeah.
haven't seen it in this area, especially in a commercial center like that. But, I'm all in favor of you moving forward.
Thank
And
you.
The other question is, because you keep showing it in the pictures, is Myers grocery store actually going in there?
Yeah.
Or is that
Yep.
still up in the air?
Still, no. So they're committed to the site. They want to be here. They've hung through a lot with us, and we appreciate them for doing that. So they're definitely committed.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, go
Are
ahead.
there any other retails that are committed?
So we have signed leases with, I could, discuss with the Meyer Total Wine and Nordstrom Rack. We have Cava, which is a fast casual Mediterranean that's going to go on the outlot. And then I think we signed the First Watch deal, which is a brunch casual place. And working on multiple other leases too as well.
For 2 restaurants.
So far, but I mean, I can see the rest of those outlots being some more restaurants too. There's a local credit union that's very interested. There's a local coffee shop that's very interested too as well.
Okay.
Anybody else? Dale?
So through this plan, is it my understanding that the setbacks will be established once we make a recommendation on the plan? The variance from the original PUD plan indicated there's some distance setback differences. So is that the point of that, pointing that out? And is that something we specifically have to approve, or we're just approving the plan or recommending the plan to council, and that's the setbacks or the setbacks?
That's what I understand,
Okay, okay.
and that the specifics will be in the agreement that's finalized, that the city council will consider.
And when we look at the calculation for parking, is the commercial space, are we looking at excess parking in that area or just strictly kind of off the office area parking? My concern is less parking is probably better if it's not necessary. Is that something staff's looking at in terms of parking for the site?
I'm sorry, the calculations included all portions of the site except for the office area wasn't a part of the development.
Okay. And there's no modified?
You're talking about in the northeast corner?
Generally, the whole site. I mean, are we seeing a reduction in parking with this or an expansion of parking from the previous PUD plan?
I believe it's an overall reduction from the original development. From the previous set of plans, I think it's also a reduction.
That's kind of consistent with what we looked at when we looked at our master plan in terms of where we could reduce parking. That seemed to make sense. We wanted to do that, right?
Yeah, yes, I believe that's correct. I'm sorry, I flipped from the parking page, but I do believe that it's first of all, it is a reduction from the last set of plans that you've reviewed, for sure. And I believe an overall reduction in parking from where the development was previously before the proposal at all.
I could maybe add to that if you'd like. So we're,
Not necessary. I mean, generally, I like it. It's good redevelopment for our community, good investment, and if you're ready for a motion, I'm ready to make a motion.
Yes.
Or you wanted?
I was just going to read this and go.
Okay. Well,
You can do it.
okay, I'll do this one. I move to recommend to City Council that the applications to amend PUD Plan 2 of 2023 and revised Site Plan 67-9 2023, both dated September 15, 2023, as revised July 14, 2025, submitted by Frank Jarboux, formerly Timothy Collier, be approved because the plans are consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the master plan and applicable provisions of the plan unit development option in section 34.3.20 of the zoning ordinance, subject to the following findings and conditions. The Planning Commission has no objection to the proposed relief from ordinance standards, which will be addressed in conjunction with the final PUD plan and the PUD agreement, and that was the reason for my comments. Conditions, number one, modifications of the zoning ordinance requirements as identified on the proposed plan and in the Giffel-Webster's August 11, 2025 review, and subheading A, all outstanding issues identified in Giffel-Webster's August 11, 2025 review shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of our city planner. B, all outstanding issues identified in the city engineer's August 8, 2025 interoffice correspondence shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the city engineer. And finally, C, all outstanding issues identified in the fire marshal's August 7th, 2025 interoffice correspondence shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the fire marshal.
There's support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, there you go.
Thank you very much. Very appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is amend Plan Unit Development 4 of 2000. The address is 32555 Northwestern Highway. Mr. Sklar here, yes? Hi. You're up.
I'm up. I got nothing. I think maybe we have some clarity from last time I was here. We were kind of a little uncertain as to the reasoning, but I'm adding a small addition onto the building, and we are replacing the pond with, proposing to replace the pond with some landscaping. And that's it.
Okay.
Should be simple,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sklar.
of course.
Thank you. So this is a amendment to an existing PUD. And at the August Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission wanted to proceed with it as a major amendment based on the finding that they want to include catering uses in the development agreement. In addition, the development agreement lists all of the uses which may be permitted at this location. And it says that while public assembly uses may be permitted, no outdoor events may be held. And the original application coincided with a letter kind of outlining a plan for outdoor events. At the meeting, the applicant clarified that they would not be holding outdoor events, but I think we want to see that in writing just to correct the letter that was provided previously. The site is currently zoned as a PUD, and the underlying zoning is B3. It's 1.85 acres, and there's a one-story building that was previously used as a restaurant and part of a larger PUD. The site, the applicant is looking to add an addition to a single-story building, as well as the elimination of a man-made pond shown facing Northwestern Highway, and proposing to replace that with several natural plantings. Other proposed changes include the elimination of 20 existing parking spaces, 2 landscape islands, and the removal of a walled-off area behind the back of the building that included a shed and a cooler and freezer. There's also changes, or they're requesting for the adjustment of an existing sanitary sewer easement that goes through the site. And we did note that any changes to the easement must be reviewed by the city engineer and attorney. So as I mentioned earlier, the reason for the major determination was on the basis of the use that was being proposed. In addition, we had some other discussion about the conditions of the PUD. The PUD agreement does in fact note that exterior lighting should correspond with a photometric plan. So we will need to see that for any of the modified lighting on the plans. The plans said that the lighting would be relocated, but obviously with an addition, we imagine that those will be new fixtures of the same type that are on other portions of the building. There are landscaping screening requirements in the PUD agreement, but they only apply to the portion of the PUD adjacent to residential, so they don't apply to this site. One thing that we did mention, though, is that the PUD agreement has building material requirements in it, and any relief from those building materials would be subject to the review of the city manager, and we did not get elevations that had building materials labeled, so we weren't unable to review that. It is also my understanding that the design standards amendment that the Planning Commission adopted has become effective since we completed this review. So when those building materials are resubmitted, I recommend that we complete a comprehensive review to make sure that they are consistent with the design standards as well. As far as the master plan goes, the site is part of what's envisioned as the 14-mile mixed-use area. And this area is currently developed with a mix of uses, including large-scale commercial, some of it unoccupied in a single-family neighborhood that has gradually declined and is majority vacant. Redevelopment may include increased building heights and should be in the character of mixed-use walkable neighborhood. We have some other notes in there about measuring lines that just additional details that we want to see from the applicant. The elevation drawings did have some confusion in them. We noticed that the elevation drawing that's labeled as the north elevation is actually reflecting the current conditions of the south elevation, and the south elevation is the proposed south elevation. So we want to see that those labels are corrected, and so that we can resolve any confusion. And we do, like I said earlier, want to have any clarification about outdoor events in writing. Regarding off-street parking, during the last review, we did review parking in accordance with just this lot. We didn't look at the larger PUD because it has a very large amount of parking. However, when this review was conducted by Diane, it was determined that they are in fact deficient in the parking. And so that shortage would need to be approved by the city council if the parking is determined to be sufficient for the use. And the development agreement should be updated to acknowledge the change in overall spaces required. The parking space dimensions should also be labeled, and we would like to see that. We also noted that there is a loading space shown adjacent to the building, and there's 4 roll-up loading doors. It's not totally clear if the loading's intended to occur outside the building or if it'll be inside the building, but in any event, we want to make sure that there's sufficient maneuvering between whatever loading vehicles are going into those doors and the parking spaces. So we just want a little bit more information on the vehicles being used in the process for loading. The ordinance also only permits loading in a side yard if approved by the Planning Commission upon a determination that such loading is necessitated by site conditions and that there's sufficient screening. There is a landscaped strip adjacent to the parking area that does have evergreens screening this from the northwestern avenue. So while there is a detailed landscape plan of the pond, we did not receive landscape plans of the actual site itself. Instead, there's site notes that talk about trees that will be relocated, which, similar to the lights, we want clarification if they're actually transplanting trees or if they're looking to replace them, in which case we need to do the replacement calculations and have more information about those trees. And then, in addition, the Planning Commission should review and consider whether replacement of the pond with landscaping is an acceptable change in the PUD. We did review the development agreement, and it does not recognize the pond as a required component of the development, but the feature was approved and discussed as a part of the original PUD. And they do describe innovative stormwater management in that PUD agreement. However, I think that's substantially referencing the pond, oh gosh, I'm west of Home Depot. As far as exterior lighting goes, again, not only is a photometric plan required by the ordinance, but it's required by the development agreement. So we'd need to see the location of the existing and proposed features. If there's any rooftop mechanical equipment, we need more information on that. And again, information on what's going on with those trees being removed and how they're being replaced. And so we need some information on the trees. And so the summary of Planning Commission considerations today are whether catering is a permitted use within the PUD, whether the plan's being deficient by 45 spaces, which is an overall deficiency in the entirety of the planned unit development as a part of this change, and whether the replacement of the pond with natural landscaping is acceptable, and finally a waiver for the loading area and the side yard.
Dale.
So clarify the parking deficiency again for me, a theme tonight. 45 spaces as a result of this addition?
No. There's 1,700 spaces as part of that PUD.
Right.
We're taking up 27 on our property, I believe.
Sorry, it was a parking analysis included with the packet materials, or was it?
I don't see it in here. No.
Okay.
But from what we have currently, with this change, with that addition, we're calculating we're 45 short? Is that for the whole PUD?
Yes, yeah, and Diane did do like a very detailed analysis looking at the whole PUD and how this change affects it. Unfortunately, I don't have internet access here, and so because it wasn't in the packet, I'm not able to pull that up at this time.
So for the public, how big is that addition?
I think it was like 5,000 square feet.
5,000 square feet?
Yep, that's correct.
There's 27 parking spaces eliminated with the addition on this site, but then the overall number of spaces throughout the whole PUD
Right.
is sufficient, because there were some areas that were kind of in reserve parking that were extra over and above what was needed for the entire PUD.
Usually 1,000 empty spaces every day.
So is the applicant, and maybe this is to the applicant, are you asking for, within the PUD, a variance to our parking standard of 45 parking spaces?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
development agreement for the PUD has its own parking standards specific for this site.
Right.
And I believe the reason is also because the additional square footage demands additional parking.
Right.
So it's both the removal of the parking, the existing conditions of the PUD, and the additional square footage that result in 45 spaces.
Right, and I'm just trying to get to the bottom line. What is being requested? Are they looking for, given that there's a addition that took parking, plus the addition requires parking, there's a need for additional parking? What is the applicant asking? Is he asking for a variance and says, still with that addition, I still have plenty of parking on the space to accommodate my development. That's what I'm wondering. That's the question.
I believe that the
There's
applicant
plenty
would
of
like
parking. I
45
have too much
spaces
parking.
worth of relief.
Okay.
Plenty of parking.
My second question has to do with the issue of you've asked the applicant to give some sort of letter to address the issue of outdoor events.
It's already done. Was
Okay,
sent to
so-
Charmaine last week.
So that was just a separate letter, separate from a PUD
Done.
agreement. It could be identified in the PUD agreement, can't it?
Yes.
Okay, so you did something above and beyond. You gave a letter, said you're not going to do it. But we can incorporate it in the agreement if this goes through, that you don't have outdoor events, correct? So that's the question. Okay. I'm good.
Barry?
Well, I mean, I like to see that building being used because it's been vacant for a while, and I so much like watching passing vacant buildings when you're going down Northwestern Highway with all the developments going on. The only thing that I question, and I guess I have to talk to the attorney about this, is we're talking about modifying a PUD, and this is I think they parceled off some of the lots within the PUD, but it's still full agreement with dealing with all the properties there. Do we have to have all the parties involved in the PUD, involved in the modification of the PUD?
I'm sure that'll come up in a little bit, but I think you should hold your public hearing first. So
Oh,
we'll
okay,
get
I'm
to that,
sorry.
yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, because I don't follow your answer exactly. It might have to do with procedure, because that is my question. I'm confused on the parking because his building is not that large. To have 1,300 parking spaces, it would not have that. But you're using in your calculation the entire strip mall over there. And so I'm confused. It seems like you're mixing, to me, it seems like mixing apples. Like his 5,400 square feet for his parcel only should be where the parking rule is applied.
I think the idea was that the buildings, like Sam's Club, would be able to park where Home Depot was, and Home Depot would park, like, I think that was the spirit of the PUD, is my understanding, is that everyone was kind of sharing in the parking. However, yes, mine is, it's all kind of walled off, but I still have enough parking for my use and don't need anyone else's parking.
Agreed. I'm actually trying to help you because
No,
I'm trying to separate.
No, I appreciate it.
I'll try to separate the Sam's Club and all of that stuff from you because
Yep.
yes, for your building, you have plenty of parking and you're building backwards.
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
So that's where I'm confused.
But through the chair.
And so you might be saying that comes down the road in this conversation.
Yeah, at some point when you make a determination on this, you will use that thought process to make a motion to approve, I assume. So,
Any other questions? Okay. What?
Well, from looking at I'm trying to grasp this whole concept here. The garage doors are on the east side of the building. It's kind of hard to vision east and west because Northwestern's screwball. So that would be facing, there's like a little
Home Depot,
strip center next,
well.
it's facing Home Depot?
Yes.
It's in the back of the building?
No, it's
Is it on the side?
on the side. It's facing the Thai restaurant.
Okay, so I guess the question is that, are these pull-in garages or is it just pull-up garage?
You pull up.
Okay, so vehicles will not be pulling into the garage?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, that was one of the questions I think that Julia had. That answers the question, thank you.
Yes, of course.
But I'm also looking at the former picture that you had up, that was up there. Is the garage doors in front of parking spaces?
I'd have to look at the site plan, but no, I don't believe so.
Because that's what the picture they just had up there showed, not that one.
They're just,
Yeah, the east side of the building would be facing to the right on this picture. And I see angle parking, but that's where the garage doors are. So is that going to be parking also?
yeah, it's only, I mean, it's temporary use. You pull up and, you know,
No, I was saying, are you going to have restricted hours for the use of
yes.
the doors?
Yeah, the doors won't be open while there's like, if there's an event or something going on, that's correct.
That's the question.
Yep, and then you could park in front of it.
Okay, and that would have to be a part of of the agreement that we do, that parking could only be used at non-operating hours. I mean, when they're using the facility for an event, they can't be pulling vehicles up and down on the parking spaces they need for the event. But that answered my questions about that. I mean, I'm kind of happy that someone's going to do something with that, and it's not going to be an open restaurant, it's going to be a catering place.
Yep.
You can use, there'll be facilities in the front for actual events.
Yes, sir. Yep. Community events, baptisms, weddings, stuff like that.
Weddings, bar mitzvahs, and
All
whatever
that.
else you can do.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay. Go ahead.
My question, I'm still a little confused with the parking
Okay.
garages. What would be the purpose of them? You just opening them up for
So
catering
we-
services? Because usually, I guess it depends on the event, because
Yep.
there could be music,
Yep.
things like that going on.
So this facility currently is used for my catering company, and mostly what we do is off-site catering. So there's kitchens inside there, and right now we pull up trucks and we take food out of there and we go to other facilities. But because we're already there, I have a liquor license there. It's a beautiful building. The idea is to activate the front space. So that this is kind of the second phase of it if things worked out, which they did. So now we're taking it a step further, and we're going to open up a space within our facility. So the idea is that, like Monday through Friday, if we're doing prep and stuff like that, there's trucks that are coming in and out, loading food out to places like Michigan Central Station, the new train station. And then on Friday, if there's a bar mitzvah, or Saturday, if there's a bar mitzvah or a wedding or something like that, then we have the facility right there, and we can do events in the front of the building. I don't know if that helps explain that it's an off-site catering company, but we're using it for on-premise as well.
I got you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
No.
Yes, Barry?
You've been in the food industry for a while. You have several restaurants in the area, correct?
Yeah, I've opened 20 restaurants.
Yeah.
Been a chef for 23 years. So, tough.
Is that it? Okay, thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing now for this. If you wish to speak about this item, and this item only, come on up and give your name and street to the secretary.
Hi. John Clarahan, Highview again. I just want to say overall, I've got no problems with this proposal. I do want to talk about a couple of things, though. Obviously, having it in writing about outdoor events at night and stuff, that already came up. Glad to hear it. That was going to be one of my talking points. I am curious, I guess, what the planned hours of operation are. Not that it matters a whole lot if everything's indoor, but we do have another business in the area that causes noise problems in my neighborhood that I am worried about. It's been a while since we've had problems with them, but just wanting to make sure. I did want to say respectfully, I don't think anybody's visiting this development to look at a pond or look at public art. And I think that this proposal with landscaping, trees, bushes is exactly what we need to be doing as a city. As I understand it, we've got a massive surplus of trees in our tree bank.
No, that's
We should be doing
money.
stuff like that.
That's money in the tree bank.
Money in the tree bank. Well, nevertheless, let's put more trees up, I think. I think that you could help us cut down on some of the noise pollution and drainage issues in the area. I do want to point out with the parking, which has been discussed ad nauseum, that the problems that my family has had on our property that backs up to this development is solely because of the surplus of parking in the area, the hard surfaces. So there's drainage issues, there's people that sit out there, frankly, squatting, living in that parking lot. We need to stop with excessive parking in general, so I think that this is totally fine. I would be very happy if we could somehow magically get rid of all these parking spaces, but nevertheless, I agree with this proposal. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to this topic? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Schultz, you're up.
So I believe the commission has in front of it some correspondence from one of the other owners in this development, taking the position that this particular property owner does not have the authority to ask to amend the PUD agreement or the PUD plan. I will say 6 months or so ago, we were asked the question of whether or not some aspects of this development could be approved without bothering to address anybody else in the PUD. And at the time, I think the proposal was pretty clearly just to amend site plans. So we took the position that no one else needs to be consulted, none of the other property owners. So what you have in front of you tonight, though, is a little different. It's, and we specifically said, we're not answering the question of whether or not anybody needs the approval of other members of this PUD because we're not amending the PUD or the PUD agreement. Well, now you are being asked to do that. And frankly, we haven't answered that question yet. So I suspect the answer is still going to be the same, but my preference would be that you give us an opportunity to give a formal legal opinion on this request from an attorney from one of the other parties saying this gentleman does not have the right to do this. I'm not reaching that conclusion. I got this afternoon, so I don't have a formal opinion on it. But because it's a real question that could affect other properties in the city, I think it would be beneficial to do an actual formal opinion on that rather than an off-the-cuff tonight. So that's my preference, would be to postpone it and let us address this fundamental issue. If, you know, if the commission wants to proceed forward and make a determination, then
I did ask.
I will note this.
Am I allowed to talk or no?
Just a second.
No.
Yes.
Do you own your property? Did you buy it? Or
Yes.
are you leasing?
No, I own it. I bought the building.
Okay, thank you.
And I got a question. So we scheduled this, it was just an amendment to a PUD plan, right? We advertised this meeting tonight
We did.
as an amendment to the PUD plan, not a change to the PUD agreement? Is that what I'm hearing? Given that we said it, I would presume that we'd already had an opinion on if there was a.
I assume it's both. So I was not here last meeting, but
I spoke to that.
the issue of the issue of whether or not this property owner needs any other approvals has never been dealt with by our office on this aspect of the fact that it's a change to the PUD plan and the agreement. If it were just a change to the site plan, we said, sure, go ahead, knock yourself out. So do I think it's going to change? You know, I don't know. Probably not. But this is correspondence from an attorney, from one of the other owners within this development. And I would like the opportunity to address it, but again, if the commission wants to make a determination, we'll deal with that.
Do you see a pitfall for us, given that it was advertised, to do our business, knowing that it is recommended to council, and ultimately they have to approve the plan and approve any agreement that is amended, for which you would have additional time between now and when it goes to council to render an opinion? In some ways, I kind of feel like they've applied, we've advertised, and they're here, and now we're saying, wait a minute, we got to look at this in terms of our.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens. Sure. But in fairness, I mean, is there a compromise that we can conduct our business, move it along one way or another, up or down, and or do you want to do it, render opinion before we act?
I mean, that's the commission's choice.
You don't have a.
I mean, I have a preference that it be postponed, but I'm not a decision
Now.
maker. Yes,
Before we act.
before you act. But if you go forward we'll note this as something that's going to need to be
Gotta be
addressed
taken
before
care
it
of.
goes to council.
Yeah.
But again,
How long would you need?
I assume you'd do it for the next planning commission meeting.
Next one? Next week? Okay. Then I'm looking for, yes, Barry.
Before I make a motion, I mean, I'm not adverse to what he's asking for.
Yeah.
And the things that would cause a problem, he's asking to do something that wasn't allowed in the other PUD, which means we have to amend the PUD. That doesn't bother me either. But the problem that is looking at it like a lawyer as opposed to a layman, I see this might happen with another PUD we just dealt with earlier, is that you have different owners in the property. When the PUD was put together, it was just one owner of all the parcels, and then some of them were sold off. So how do you, I'm asking you as a lawyer that does more of this than I do, how do you actually get everybody who's a part of the PUD to agree to something if it's not just one entity that used to own all of the PUD? That, it's like a corporation where they're having a fight amongst the members.
And my answer through the chair is mostly we're not going to bother to round up all the other property owners. That may be the answer that we come up with in this case. The issue was raised the first time around, and we were not talking about amending this particular PUD or this particular plan, so we never addressed it in this particular PUD. We just said, if you're going to change the site plan, just the site plan, knock yourself out. We're not gonna make you come, have anybody else get notice. You can deal with that. This is a little bit of a different animal. And that's all, the answer could still be exactly that, and probably will be, but.
So, through the chair.
Go ahead.
So would you be comfortable with a side letter that says that he's not going to have outdoor events that would not have to be in the PUD agreement? That would not require?
That would always make it, Mr. Counting, into the actual PUD agreement.
Like matter of course?
Yeah.
You would put it in anyhow? You wouldn't want to, that would.
If we're going to amend the PUD
If you're-
agreement, that would definitely be in it.
Is that the only item that we're dealing with?
That's not the item.
My understanding is the catering use.
Use and activity of use. Parking's not an issue, is it? Yeah, I guess it is. It could be not be.
Weird to me.
It's a lot.
May or may not.
Am I allowed to say anything yet?
Yes.
So I have been working on this for over like a year. I had my attorneys make sure everything was copacetic. So I spent a lot of money on legal. I went through all the process. And then I spoke to Charmaine. The lawyer who you're talking about called me, who I'm friendly with. He said, hey, we got no problem with this. We just want to make sure everything goes through the right process. We're not objecting. We're glad that you're activating it, like Mr. Brickman said. And so I said, okay, well, is there anything I need to do? He said, no. And so I called Charmaine right away. I said, hey, I got a call from a lawyer. It seems like there's got to be, and she said, nope, you don't have to worry about it. I spoke to the city attorney. Everything's fine. I said, do I need to have a lawyer present? Do you want to talk to my lawyer? This is a couple days ago. So again, she assured me, nope, everything's fine. There's no need. Their lawyer can't do anything. And furthermore, like you all mentioned, this has been, if it was this important to them or whoever, they could be here. So this has been in process for months. I've already gone to one meeting. This is my second meeting. If this was so important to them, they could be here like I've been. And so, I've done everything the right way. I've paid for all the proper consultants and done everything on the up and up. And then I went ahead and double, triple, quadruple checked with Charmaine, my lawyer. She checked, I assume, with the city attorney. And I spoke to this attorney. He said, we don't object to anything. And so now.
Which attorney?
Howard.
Howard Eisenberg, or no?
I'm sorry?
Howard who?
I'll find his name. I can't think of it right now. But he represents the tenant. I don't know why I can't find it.
So the letter.
Howard Luckoff. Howard Luckoff called me.
Through the chair, the letters from a different attorney for Sakwa. And everything that you say sounds correct, with
Right.
the
So
exception of,
they should
with
be
the
here.
exception of the fact that we haven't had a conversation at our office since March, when this was not a, you know, a change to the PUD and the PUD agreement. But either way, it sounds like they got their formal notice and
Yep.
they had their lawyer fire off this opinion that you need more, their authority to be in front of the
Right,
city.
they
You
should have
may
done this
not.
2 months ago, or they should have done it earlier this week when they talked to me, and I said, you know, and they should have been here tonight, and they're not, so,
I
you know.
apologize for the back and forth.
No,
Mr. Chair.
I appreciate it, and I want to do everything the right way. It's just like, it's a lot of brain damage for all of us. And I'm adding on and activating an area, and I'm putting $20,000 into landscaping. It's just like, it's so hard as an entrepreneur. It's like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? It's just like, how much brain damage do we have to go through to activate something for community use so there can be bar mitzvahs and weddings, and I could put $20,000 of landscaping in a pond that's sitting there that it looks like a crack house of a parking lot, you know what I mean? And it's like, what? You don't want that? Like, so it's just, it's very frustrating, and anyway.
I have a question.
Yes. Go ahead.
So this is a zoning question, or what I think I understand about zoning. If we put in the master plan or anywhere that zoning B3 means you can do restaurants, event centers, retail space, and whatever else, that means that Susie Q over there, who buys a building next to a retail space and they want to turn it into maybe something slightly different than what's there now, they have the right to do that as long as they are following the proposed use of that B3 zoning. Am I fully understanding my job correctly?
I believe so. Like two businesses of the same land use could occupy the same building in the same district as long as one of them isn't non-conforming.
Through the chair, you are correct
Okay.
about how the ordinance normally works for whatever, the B district, whatever. This is an existing PUD from 2001, and it doesn't say whatever businesses in the B1. It lists specific businesses that they're allowed to have. What your planning consultant has said, catering is not in that list. So it's not, you're not looking at the zoning ordinance and saying, it's in the general mix and it's, you know, so
It's
sure,
food
substitute
service,
it
it's
in.
just restaurants, it's like.
Sir, just stop. When he asks you. Instead, this is a contract that says, forget about what the B district says in the ordinance. Here are the
Things that
12 of the 18 uses that you get to have. So that's what your planning consultant is saying. They're looking at the list saying, is catering on there? They've taken the position that it's not. So that's why you're here. It's not the normal case. You are correct about how it would normally be.
Okay. So notwithstanding catering though, an event space that I rent out that serves food to me and liquor, like the restaurant that's currently standing there right now, is that a part of the PUD? Because how is that different than that restaurant that was there right now? The event space, how is it different than the restaurant that's sitting there right now, or for that matter, the hookah spot across the way, where I could hold an event, have some liquor, and eat a meal?
We were responding to the request for.
Nope, completely understand, just trying to make sure I'm understanding how a PUD works.
Yes.
When you're listing out things.
So the PUD agreement does list places of assembly as a permitted use within the PUD. The PUD does currently specify no outdoor events may be permitted in association with the place of assembly. And so that is already permissible within the PUD. What's not specifically listed is catering, which we we felt was different enough from a restaurant that we brought it to the planning commission for consideration of major or minor amendment, and to have that discussion with respect with what's in the PUD agreement, because as Attorney Schultz mentioned, the list of uses is non-exclusive, so.
Bear with me, please, because this is the thing I'm struggling with because I wasn't here at the last meeting. So I'm sort of hearing that if the assembly use is all indoors, you would be okay with it under the current list in the PUD contract. So they wouldn't need to amend that. It would just be it would be a condition of the approval that all the use be indoors. Then you would say the use is okay? This is through the chair.
We never reviewed, we were not of the understanding that this building was occupied at the time that we did this review, or that the catering use had ever occupied it. We were of the understanding that we were reviewing for a new catering and event space use. And now we understand that the only change was really to add the event space. So does that help clarify?
I got a liquor license, so that's not,
Sure.
And
not
the
helping.
event space would be part of, completely permissible under that PUD agreement as long as there's no outdoor events.
So if the use that he's described over the last two meetings were disclosed to you, and he said at the beginning, I'm not going to have anything outdoors, you wouldn't have flagged the use.
Well, we also flagged it for the catering.
Yes, it's my understanding, I don't have the allowable use table in front of me, but it's my understanding that the catering operation is more like manufacturing of food, which we would allow in certain industrial, light industrial districts and so forth. That was one of the issues with not the event space or using it as, you know, a restaurant and that type of thing. It was actually, as you can kind of see with the view up, they're going to be pulling in trucks that are loading up prepared food that's prepared there, manufactured there, and they're moving it out to other facilities.
Okay. So I can see why the determination was made at the last meeting that this is not a use that's listed in the contract. So
And to fix it, we need to,
amend the contract, which is, you know,
How we are at where we are right now.
the issue that the other owner in the development is raising about whether they need his approval.
Dale?
So I have two issues. One, we have a process issue. This gentleman's gone through the process. He's been given direction by staff. We're working with staff. We've published notices. We established a public hearing, and now we're here. We're hearing that there's some other person may have standing or not standing or whatever. I'm not an attorney that now is going to throw gear in the works. So I'm not sure what that means. But from a global perspective, it kind of concerns me about other PUDs we have out there. They break these PUDs up, and we have one owner, one developer initially, and anybody can show up after they divide it up as condominiums or whatever that can hold any kind of amendment to a PUD in the future. I'm sure that's something you would consider if you're going to think about that or come up with an opinion. That could affect how we handle we may never see a PUD amendment ever again because somebody out of left field says they got an issue for whatever reason. It could be a good issue, it could be just they don't get along with their neighbor. So from my standpoint, and I was going to ask the gentleman, and obviously you've got a lot of time and money in this. This is an investment in our community, and we like investment and redevelopment in our community. It makes sense. It's good for us. Would a delay of a month cause you problem, or would you like to see us proceed tonight?
this has been really, I'd like to see you proceed tonight. And, you know, the other thing that's troubling, and with all due respect, there is a process problem because I have a liquor license, and for the liquor license, I had to get approval. And so they knew the use at the liquor license, right? And I also had to get building approval, right, from the building department when I did construction 3 years ago. So everything's been transparent. So you're saying that you didn't know what the use was. It says on my doors, whatever the liquor commission made me put, walk-ins are welcome. And then I got inspected by the liquor commission and the city inspector. So everyone understands the use and what's going on, and I've been there for 3 years. So I guess my point is there is a communication issue or a processed communication with these PUDs because they are obviously quite extensive and exhaustive, and everything seems to be a major versus a minor. And so I appreciate you pointing that out. And so it's challenging over here because, you know, I actually didn't even push to do the catering. I didn't really care because I was already operating a catering company. And so it was, I think, staff or you know, your team like, hey, let's put catering in here. It'll make everything nice and tidy. That was you guys kind of pushing that, which is fine, which is great. I want everything nice and clear and to be transparent, but that was not my original intention. I also, let's think about intention here. The intention of anyone, the lawyer who called me said, hey, we have no problem with your use. We just want to make sure the process is right. I'm not opening up a strip club, right? So like just talk about intention here. I'm not ruffling any feathers. And this is as you said, this is a use that's gone down, you know, this is an area that's gone downhill. So just from a pragmatic, practical standpoint, and not to, instead of all the red tape and governing, like, let's just talk about intention and like doing the right thing and just, you know, like, do we really need more government here? Do we really need more meetings? Am I doing something that's violating? I'm planting trees. I'm bringing communities together. I'm putting millions of dollars into a building. So what would be anyone's intention, any lawyer, anyone on that property's intention from taking something that's completely vacant and going downhill and livening it up? Why would we delay this process? And where are they when they could be here? So it's just like, I just look at it from a pragmatic standpoint, and I don't believe that it's fair. I had to come back in town for this meeting, and so now I'm here because I talked to Charmaine. I said, hey, can I do this over Zoom? She says, no, they won't listen to an applicant unless they're there. She said it'd be a good thing for you to be there. So I came back in town for this, and here I am. So.
Final comment from me. I'm of a mind to go forward. I think it's our duty. I think it's been advertised. We should make a decision one way or another. We've been so notified by the attorney that there may be an issue. Yeah, so I don't think we, have to grind to a halt. I think we should go ahead, give this gentleman his day, see where we're at with all these issues, so he knows where he's at. And in the meantime, it's got to go to council, and then when it goes to council, we're aware of the possible issue, and council will remain aware of it as well.
Okay. Barry.
Well, I'm going to play lawyer now. The problem that I see is that this is an amendment to an existing PUD agreement. And so the city has to sign the amendment, and somebody else has to sign the amendment on the other, that's asking for the PUD change. And if you have different parties within the PUD that don't agree, who you're going to get to sign it, who has the authority to sign on behalf of the property?
He does, because it's his property.
That's more of a legal question than anything else. And so, I mean, I don't disagree with what he wants to do. I have a question about his liquor license and whether it's an on-site service license or he's a caterer, he goes to different locations, he can serve liquor at those locations. So that's really not before us right now. And I also know this, that, to answer one question you raised, this property was zoned residential. I don't think we ever rezoned it. It's still residential, and the PUD allowed us to put businesses in there because the subdivision that was there, and there was several homes there. I mean, there was a lot of homes. Yeah. And the homes were, the people in the subdivision wanted to move out because their water was going, they were on wells, the power system was going bad, they wanted out, and they were happy to sell. But I don't think we ever rezoned the property to commercial or B1, B2. It's still residential.
Didn't we do it in
So we got to make sure that if we're going to be dealing with a PUD, we have to stay within the confines of the PUD, and we have to make sure that whoever's signing the amendment has the authority to sign the amendment for everybody in the PUD. That's more of a legal situation. I don't disagree with what he wants to do. I'm in favor of what he wants to do, but I just don't know if he's the one that has the authority to sign. That's what I'm saying. And if we have to get pushed back to what things really are, we have to either follow what's allowed in that PUD, or they have to follow what's allowed in a residential district,
Or amend the PUD.
or amend the PUD. There you go. And who can sign the amendment? That's my
Allowed to amend
question.
the PUD, Barry. We're allowed to amend the PUD.
Yeah, but we can sign, and the city can sign on behalf of the city, but the other side has to sign it too.
Understand that, but that can be worked out in time. That can be decided whether we have an issue or not. We don't even know if we have an issue here. We have no one who's come forward with that issue other than this may be an issue.
But that's more internal in the PUD than with us.
Can I
Okay.
ask a question? So I get that someone came 100 years ago with and asked for a PUD. 100% get that. But then the property changed hands. So I believe when I first got on the board, someone explained to me that PUDs I thought they were only as good as the person who bought it. And if the property changes hands, the PUD isn't necessarily real anymore. Because again, it goes back to what you're asking, Barry, who in the world would be signing it? And if you think the person who brought the PUD should be signing it, then that means it should have been declared when he bought the property. And therefore all the rights signed over to him and anyone else who's dealing in a PUD, but for the purposes of this argument, this gentleman right here, then those rights are signed over to him when he purchased the property. So I know that I am no lawyer. I know that I'm not a real estate agent, but all I am is an engineer that likes to use logic. And it just seems to me like he and anybody else who we want to purchase properties in the Farmington Hills area and make changes and updates and invest are going to be in trouble if they're purchasing PUDs.
So for that reason, that's probably likely to be the answer, that this gentleman does have the ability to ask for this relief. See, it's no fun to think like a lawyer. It's just a process question, right? So you're prepared to do this. Someone has raised an issue that is not on its face irrelevant or, clearly, unsupported. It's a real question by someone with a property interest in the area of this gentleman. So the question is, how do we get it answered and resolved, right? Do you postpone this? Or do you, as Mr. Conigan says, go ahead, give him the relief, but make sure that everybody in the world knows that he may not end up getting the benefit of whatever it is you do tonight, depending on what our answer is on the legal question. Hopefully that.
Sort of. Sort of.
I mean, I think there's a general fairness issue in terms of our process and expectations and whatever. And I think we have to do our duty in terms of that. If there's an issue that comes up down the road, we have to deal with it down the road. Meanwhile, he can move forward and they can try to work it out or whatever it is and, make his dream come true on the property.
Make a motion.
Eric?
So, I mean, like I said, I'm not opposed to going forward, but I think that we have to put as a condition that if there's going to be amendment to this PUD, that the appropriate parties sign the amendment. And that has to be a condition of the thing. So if he doesn't have the authority, even though he's one of the property owners now, to sign it, because once he bought the property, the conditions of the PUD come with the property. They don't disappear. It's like an easement, and even though it's not an easement, it has the same function. And we now know there's probably about 3 or 4 owners over there now, or unless Sacwa owns most. Across the road from him, they sold off that property too, but it's still subject to the PUD. And I think Sacwa still owns the 2 big buildings in the back. But he's still...
So as long as the motion includes a statement a condition that the authority of the property owner to seek the amendment to the agreement in the PUD is confirmed through the city attorney's office. You can, if that's how you want to proceed, you're
To get us through the night.
What if
definitely
you make it a
permitted
minor
to do.
amendment? Can you do that? Can you vote to make it a minor amendment now or no?
Yeah.
No, the thing is you're making some changes to the property, and
Yeah.
that designates it as major as opposed to minor, and I don't like that myself, but that's the way it
I was just
it
trying to
is.
come up with that.
And my concern isn't so much what you're trying to do there. And my concern is that you might not have the total authority. If one of the other property owners within the PUD is sending letters to us saying, I didn't say it was okay. The thing is do you have the authority as one of the property owners within the PUD to make a change to the PUD without the other members of the PUD having this, having the right to sign off is what I'm trying to say.
I think we should take our lawyer's hat off and put our planner hats on. I think it's public record, we're discussing or whatever. The city attorney's got to make sure the right parties sign the agreement. And if I make the motion, I don't want to make that a condition of the motion. I don't think that's our purview. Whatever, the city attorney will make sure the appropriate parties, whoever's responsible for signing the agreement. Why am I considering that when we're looking at site plan and possible use changes and restrictions that we want to impose? That seems to be my responsibility. They have to work out the details.
Through the chair, why wouldn't you make that? I think you're exposing yourself a little bit if you're exposing the commission and the city a little bit if you don't make that a condition, Mr. Callahan.
Well, how is that? You're responsible to make sure the people of the agreement, the right people sign the agreement.
But if
Now,
the-
the city planning commission's got to make sure that the legal entanglements are met?
Once this has been raised, I think, yeah.
Okay, ready for a motion? Sure. Okay. Make sure I got the right one. Plan for 2000, right? I move to recommend to City Council that the application to amend part of Plan Unit Development 4 of 2000 based on plans revised July 10, 2025 submitted by Zach Schuyler be approved because the plans are consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the planning, the master plan and applicable provisions of the Plan Unit Development option in Section 34.3.20 of the zoning ordinance, subject to the following findings and conditions. First finding, the commission has no objection to the proposed relief from the ordinance standards, which will be addressed in conjunction with the final PUD and PUD agreement. A condition subject to a change to agreement, the expectation and the requirement that the appropriate parties to the agreement shall sign the agreement before the agreement is considered valid.
Okay.
Any language you want to suggest, that'd be fine.
That works?
A condition, modifications of zoning ordinance requirements as identified on the proposed plan and in Giffords-Webster's September 4th, 2025 review. And subconditions A, all outstanding issues identified in the Giffords-Webster's September 4th, 2025 review shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the city planner. All outstanding issues identified in the city engineer's August 13, 2025 interoffice correspondence shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the city engineer. And finally, all outstanding issues identified in the fire marshal's August 13, 2025 interoffice correspondence shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the fire marshal.
There's support?
Support, but I think there's a couple things that we just need to make sure that we're stating that catering will be a permitted use under the amended PUD.
Agree?
The plans are deficient by 45 spaces, which are acceptable. The parking.
Right.
And then the replacement of the pond with natural landscaping is acceptable. And then I'd like to just add one more, that the one thing that I'm a tad bit concerned about, just probably more because it's not documented, the materials used in the new building. The current PUD says that the materials will be reviewed by the city manager. I just want to make sure that that's part of that and that they conform to the new standards that were just recently approved.
Yep, sounds good. I'm agreeable to that.
Okay,
So
moved and
second.
supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Next item on the agenda is cluster site plan 54-4-2025, the location, the south side of Folsom between Parker and Lundy.
Yeah.
For construction of 33 single-family detached units within an RA3 district.
Good evening. My name is Stuart Michelson. I'm one of the partners at Windmill Group that owns the property that we're discussing here. I just want to introduce myself because we've had a longstanding relationship with the city of Farmington Hills and our developments. We've done at least 5 developments. We've won beautification awards. We've always had a good rapport with the city. We've always delivered a good top-notch product. We're very proud of what we have done here and in other communities. And so I know that some of you and they know us, but others that are new to the Planning Commission don't. So in August of 2023, we purchased this land. It was an assemblage put together of about 16 parcels. And we have submitted to the city for a cluster option approval. And we were, in October of 2023, we came to the Planning Commission. We were approved at the time. And then we found out we still had to go to a meeting of a public hearing, which we did, and we were approved again on January 18th of 2024 for our cluster option. And the reason we wanted the cluster option was because there's a river that runs through our property, and we didn't want to have to go through the river or deal with it at all. So by doing some reduced lots in width, not depth, but in width, we were able to avoid the river and save a lot of the open space, wetlands, and trees. So then when we came back to the city after our cluster qualification, we came back for the site plan approval. Now, at that time, we were told that we wouldn't they wouldn't look at the site plan, or you wouldn't look at the site plan until we got a wetlands permit, because we know there's wetlands, even though they had already been designated. So, which is kind of unusual. Usually you get your site plan approval first, and then you go get your wetlands, but we did it the way the city wanted us to. So we spent about a year meeting with the Eagle and submitting for the wetlands permit. And George will go through the procedure of what we did to finally get our wetlands approved. So now we're back to you to get our site plan approved.
Good evening. My name is George Major. I'm one of the co-managers of Forest Oak Riverwalk, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the history on the wetland approval, because we went through a lot of process to look at the property and to have the public give their comments on it. So in February of 2024, after being directed by the Planning Commission to get a wetland permit, we, with our wetland consultant, Bar Engineering, arranged for a pre-application meeting with Eagle. At the pre-application meeting with Robert Primo of Eagle, we showed him the site plan and discussed the various elements of the site plan, and he made some suggestions about things we should change in the site plan in order to get the Eagle permit. In July, then, we applied for the wetland permit, And after we applied, there was a period from September 6th of 2024 to September 26th where Eagle sought the public comments about the application for the permit and showed the site plan. There were numerous comments made at the time, and afterwards Eagle forwarded those comments to us. We considered the comments and made further modifications to the site plan. After doing that, we met with Eagle again, showed them the site plan, and finally Eagle agreed to issue a wetland permit. So there are some elements of the wetland permit that I think are important for you to know so you understand the restrictions we're working under. One is that it has only 33 lots. Okay, we started with 42 possible, 38 in our earlier proposals, and now we're at 33. We had submitted a site plan to Eagle during the process that had 35, but they pointed out 2 lots that they said had wetlands and wanted us to remove those. That's the area between lot 13 and 14 on your plan. So that's also a preserved wetland area. Now that's about 0.2 acres of land. We also have agreed to grant a conservation easement to the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy covering 4.0226 acres, not including an area of about 1/4 of an acre within the wetlands, which will be preserved for walking paths. So it will be the 0.25 plus the 4.0226 plus the 0.2 acres that will be preserved. That's over 27% of the total site. Now, we've also agreed and are required to work with a herpetologist. So we have made arrangements with HRM, an experienced herpetologist, recommended by our wetland consultant and approved by Eagle, to work with us on the requirements to provide for the relocation of wildlife with an emphasis on herpetofauna, reptiles and amphibians, from all the wetlands impacted by the permitted activity. And the wildlife must be relocated to the nearest adjacent properties as appropriate within our property. Riverwalk will also mitigate the loss of 0.325 acres of forested wetland by acquiring credits for 0.66 acres of forested wetlands from an Eagle-approved wetland mitigation bank. So that's for the areas that we do impact. We have to replace it with twice as much in a wetland mitigation bank. Other restrictions have also been imposed under the wetland permit during the construction period in order to protect other species such as the Indiana bat or similar species. There are 2 other subjects that have affected this property and are concerns of the people living in the area. One is that there's a ponding of water that occurs on the north end of the property near Folsom Road. That area is not subject to regulation. It is not a wetland subject to regulation of Eagle. Now, we've designed the site so the water is taken from that area to our detention basin. The grading plan and the drainage system for the development has been designed to eliminate this flooding altogether. Water from this area will be drained into the rear yard catch basins and flow downhill to the detention basin, which will be constructed on site. This will take the water draining onto our property from both sides of the property, from the property facing Lundy and the property facing Parker, into the rear yard catch basins and to the detention basin. The detention basin has been designed to accommodate the additional water. It's over-designed for the site to accommodate the additional water from the adjacent properties. We've asked Evan Priest, our engineer, to be here tonight to answer any other questions you might have or to discuss this water drainage question in any detail and to answer any questions that you may have. So, yeah, Evan Priest, he's right there. And also to satisfy the requirements of a buffer between the parcel to be developed and the adjacent one-family district. That was a question in the Giffords-Webster. We are going to provide a 10-foot wide area at the rear of each of the adjacent lots within which existing healthy trees will be preserved. And we're going to plant a great number of additional trees and evergreens along the rear property lines of each of the adjacent properties, as shown on our landscape plan that we've already submitted. And tonight, we've asked Brian Devlin, our landscape consultant, to be here to answer any questions you may have concerning this and to provide any further detail you would like to have. So tonight, we have both of these gentlemen here. If you'd like to, they can answer your questions now or later in the presentation.
Anyone have questions? Opponent? Yes, Barry.
Just curious, where is the electrical lines and cable lines? Are they going to be in the back or are they going to be in the front of the units for the properties? Because it makes a difference where you put your buffer.
We're going to keep them in the front.
Okay.
And the reason we like to keep them in the front is so they have access in case they have to service it. Because when people build their houses in landscape, if they're in the back, then there's a lot of disruption to the landscaping. So it's.
Are there easements in the back?
Yeah, well, we have a storm sewer easement
Okay, but you did.
in the backyard, but
Gas and electric aren't in the back, they're all.
no, they're all coming from the street, and they're going to feed the houses with individual lines going to each house.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And the utility easement is in the street.
Any other questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. So- I'm sorry, Julia. I don't want to forget you.
The proposed development is located on a parcel that's currently zoned RA3. The property is located south of M5 between Farmington Road and Orchard Lake, and it runs from M5 south to Colfax Road, which is 8.5 miles. The existing site is entirely undeveloped and heavily wooded with several areas of wetland, as obviously we've discussed. It consists of 16 parcels and is generally a trapezoid connecting Folsom to Colfax. The one small portion just westward and fronts on Parker Street. And the lots connecting the site to Colfax are kept as outlots and not part of the proposed cluster. The total acreage of the site is 16.29 acres, but 2.47 acres of that is right-of-way, so the net acreage is 13.83. The property is generally located to single-family residential and M5, and it's accessible from Folsom Road. As noted by the applicant, the plans did receive cluster qualification by the Planning Commission in October of 2023. The findings of the cluster qualification included the density, the permitted density finding that it would be consistent with the first option, permitting 2.6 units per acre for a one-family cluster in the RA3. Or under the second option, which would permit up to 63 units. And the plans at the time only showed 38 units, so they were both under both of the maximum density options provided by the cluster. And they have since been revised down to 33 units. So the reason for the cluster is mostly for the relief from the dimensional requirements. The findings of the Planning Commission for qualifying the cluster was based on frontage on a major or secondary thoroughfare and being of a narrow width as measured along the thoroughfare, which makes platting difficult. The parcel contains a floodplain or poor soil conditions, which result in a substantial portion of the total area of the parcel being unbuildable. And the parcel contains natural assets, which would be preserved through the cluster development. As far as the plans go, as mentioned earlier, the original concept plans had 38 lots, but this application shows 33 units. And the lots have been generally configured in a way that avoids containing the wetlands, as mentioned, between those, I think, lots 13 and 14, where they left that area open. The property is designated as single-family residential in the future land use map, and it doesn't fall into any of the special residential planning areas or any of the special study areas identified in the master plan. And it is designated as medium density on the residential densities map. As mentioned earlier, they are looking for relief from the dimensional standards by using the cluster option. And so that would include the side setbacks. They're looking at 5 feet and 10 feet total instead of 8 feet and 20 feet total for a total of 2. The front setbacks, they have 25 feet instead of 30 feet. For rear, they're keeping that the same as required for RA3, which is 35 feet. The building height wasn't addressed on the plan, so further information is needed for that, but generally not changed. The minimum lot size, the average in RA3 is 10,000 square feet and minimum is 12,500. Here they have the smallest as 7,795 square feet, and the typical is about 8,470 square feet. And again, as mentioned by the applicant, the lot widths are being reduced. In RA3, it would be 80 feet, and here it's about 55 feet. As far as the cluster standards go, the cluster developments must meet all the design standards in the ordinance, which includes garages being set back 20 feet. The cluster the side that's facing a major or secondary thoroughfare must also be set back 25 feet. No building may be placed within 25 feet of any property line. 15% of the development must be set aside as open space, and the applicant must provide a copy of the Eagle permit that's been described earlier. And all of the aforementioned conditions have been met, aside from, I believe, the Eagle permit still needs to be provided to the city, is my understanding. During the cluster qualification, the Planning Commission standard that cited standards that qualify, when qualified under certain criteria, the applicant's required to submit a sheet that superimposes the plan on aerial image, and that superimposed aerial plan was provided as a part of the site plan. As far as the tree removals go that were proposed, we did see some minor discrepancies which should be corrected, and the plantings should be updated to meet the correct requirements. Their table indicates the removal of 637 trees, including 86 landmark trees, which total 2,122.5 inches. And we found a discrepancy of 8 non-landmark trees. So the applicant has provided additionally 45 street trees, and those requirements are met. A cost estimate for the landscaping must be submitted prior to the final review. And finally, the transition area, which was brought up by the applicant, is required. A transition area is required for all cluster developments, and the transition can be provided in accordance with one of the different means that are listed in our review on page 5. And it's important for the applicant to identify which method they're proposing for consideration as a transition. As they mentioned, they're looking to use a 10-foot area with the existing trees at the rear portion of the lots, as well as the existing landscape trees to count towards that requirement. And that should be up to the Planning Commission to determine if that is satisfactory. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Barry?
I'm looking at the plan you have up on the screen here. It shows, it looks like there's variation in the grade. Are these lots higher or lower than the neighboring lots? Doesn't look flat.
Hi, I'm Evan Priest, and I can address that question. We have, with our site plan here, we have a preliminary grading plan, and the storm sewer collection system that George alluded to, that we would be running up the east and the west property lines of this development, will be set below the existing grade at the property line, if that answers your question.
Because I know that if I don't know if neighbors are here, but that's usually one of the questions they ask, whether or not there'll be runoff onto their properties.
Right, so
I know you have detention in the back to cover that. And if they're lower than the neighbors, then the runoff is not going to be a problem.
The rear yards will definitely be lower than the property lines. So if you have a situation where your lot runs off onto this property, we will be picking that water up, and it should not back up onto the adjacent homes.
There could be
adjacent
swales?
properties. With swales and catch basins, we'll have a catch basin every other lot line, so approximately every 110 feet. I think that is shown on one of these sheets in here. So we wouldn't anticipate any problems on adjacent properties related to runoff backing up on the high end, on the high side on the Parker lots, or we won't be shedding runoff onto the rear of the Lundy lots, which are generally lower than this property.
Thank you.
As it exists. Thank you.
Could you repeat your name?
Evan Priest?
Evan Priest.
Yes.
Questions? Okay. I'm going to start the public hearing now. But those of you that want to speak, come on over here and give your name and street to the clerk.
My name is Robert George, about a 15-year resident on Parker. We moved in about 2010. Pretty familiar with that whole swamp area. It used to be a lot wetter. There used to be a lot more wetland. I'm not sure if it's associated with Windmill Homes development over in River Rock, where they kind of just cut through the river on the other side, but I'm actually down to the left of this development, and my property sits much lower. And I don't know what you guys are gonna do with the water that's gonna come towards us, heading south. I'm not sure. That way, towards Colfax. Right, but that whole area is wetland for the most part. You can see, well, I can't really see a river, but the whole area is wetland. There's many species of flora, fauna. There's great horned owls, which are currently and have been nesting right across the street above my neighbor's house for the past 10 years. There are multiple eagles, birds of prey. Can't really say I'm a fan of the deer a whole lot, but we have a lot of those guys around too. Yeah, and I did like maybe a minute worth of research here and looked into the company. They have a 2.3 Google rating. All their reviews are nothing but negative. People are complaining they do shoddy buildsmanship. You can't get a hold of them. I'm not sure how they're still in business. I don't get it. It didn't really take long, but I just wanted to speak my piece. I don't believe this development is fully thought through. It's going to cause a lot of headache for the people who have been living there for their whole lives. I like the woods. I like the environment and the health aspects that come along with living next to a wetland. The benefits, it benefits everybody. When they go messing with the waterways and the watershed, that trickles down. I don't know what it's going to do to the rest of the community, but that water, we need that water. Our water is our most valuable, one of our most precious resources, and we're just going to build on top of it and hope that it goes the right way. I don't get it. I think it's in little haste. I think there needs to be a little more research done and understanding how the rest of the community is going to be impacted. That's it for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Hello, my name is Mary Newland. I live at 21645 Lundy. I was a young home buyer in 1987 and was happy just to purchase a home. There was always neighborhood talk about who owned the property. There was lots of rumors about there was many owners, and there was titles that were not quite together. And I had no idea as a young homeowner and a nurse, not a professional business person, of how to find out who actually owned the property. Then around the late 90s, when I had 3 children, I stood in the old city hall in front of Mayor Aldo and asked the city to consider land banking for future city use, and knowing this was one of the last large properties in the city. It was also untouched. Basically, the property has stood as it has stood during the sand of time. You might find a couple of apple trees that were probably placed by the early settlers in the Farmington and Farmington Hills area. But it is basically untouched as it has been since the dawn of time. Why was it land banked? Titles again. People didn't know. There was lots of little piece of property owned by many, many different relatives, people, and no one knew how to get these titles together. So the thought of land banking kind of died. Now we're 25 years have gone by, and a plan for development is here. Has the developer contacted any of the residents? No. Is it because we are not an organized homeowners association and we do not have a voice? But you can see we do exist, and we surround this property and the proposed development. Many of us have lived there for decades and decades and decades. I know residents have no voice when up against a developer with money and a trained staff. From prior experience with this housing developer, I've heard the phrase often used, we've been building for 40 years. This makes me wonder, should we continue building as we have been for the last 40 years? Understanding the variance for the sites, less frontage in the front, less side setbacks, 25 feet less lots than we're used to. These are all not similar to the surrounding established neighborhoods. The lack of concern for the surrounding homeowners is paramount, and it should be of ultimate consideration by the Planning Commission and the city. Drainage flooding has been a concern into drainage and flooding is of ultimate concern for us because development is going to happen. We want to know, has the correct information has even been submitted to Eagle? The majority of the property is wet with a natural stream with a natural stream that runs through it. How can we trust that Eagle information was submitted correctly when the tree survey has been in question for a while now? The proposed entry off of Parker is running side by side off the natural stream.
Time's up.
Hi, my name is Tammy Trinka. I live on Lundy Drive. I want to start by saying that I've been a resident of Farmington Hills most of my life. I graduated from Farmington High School. My children also graduated from that same school. This is my second home that I've purchased in the city. I've currently lived on Lundy for approximately 24 years, and I'm one of the newer neighbors. Most of my neighbors have been there much longer. The reason I feel it's necessary to tell you this is I want you to understand the loyalty that we all have to the city, and this decision greatly impacts us and our property. I understand this decision will not be made based on emotion or how strongly we all oppose this cluster development, but I don't understand why a cluster development is even being considered. If you look at the entire area where this property is being proposed, the size of the lots are much larger. Streets such as Lundy, Parker, Ruth, Power, Robinson, Colfax, Osmus, Salvador, Hugo, Whitlock, they all have similar sized lots and aesthetics. Large private lots, no sidewalks. Some are still dirt roads, giving you a country feel to living in the city. This is why this cluster does not fit. It makes no sense for this property. As the Planning Commission, you must protect us as property owners and not allow this. Any proposed development must fit with the surrounding neighborhood, and this cluster doesn't fit. Since I'm going to run out of time, areas of concern is the drainage. We do sit lower than this property. Our yards are already wet in the spring, and they stay wet. The wetlands being filled could affect us, and we're aware that flooding issues can happen when wetlands are filled. This property is not even walkable in the spring due to the high water table. Want to make sure that something is being done to ensure that we don't have drainage problems on our property. And will this committee be there for us if this does happen? As they said, they hope it won't, but there's no guarantee that it won't. Climate change is another thing everybody talks about. What will the temperature difference be when we tear down all these trees? It's heavily, heavily wooded. Loss of wildlife. It's another thing. I know that it won't play a part of your decision, but you know, as human beings, we have a power to either protect or destroy. And it seems like we always pick destroy, all for money. Lastly, I would just like to ask each of one of you to treat this as though this was being proposed in your backyard and have the same loyalty to us as property owners as we have had to the city. And please guarantee us that we will have at least comparable lot sizes. If you look at what surrounds that in our lot sizes, I mean, if you live there, how would you like to look out and see this huge cluster? It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit any of the streets. It doesn't fit any of this area. So I ask each one of you to please drive there and see what we're talking about before you make a decision.
My name's Renee Dale, and I live on Lundy. I spoke last October. I talked about the wildlife, and I know all of you have answered that. I do have a couple questions, if I'm allowed to do that during this part of. If somebody could put that back on where the trees were shown. One of my questions is, one, if this is approved, will there be a sidewalk that continues from where the city has put a sidewalk in front of the Montessori school? Will there be a sidewalk that continues down here? It would be very nice if we could walk along that road, and as of right now, I'm not seeing a sidewalk on that. The reason I asked for this map was on the other side of the river there's some trees being put in the middle there. I'm not sure what's happening on that side of the river where it looks like they're going to be disturbing something to plant those trees. The last time we were here in October, it was suggested to the builder that he meet with us to answer some of our questions, and that opportunity was never given to us, so I'd like to take the opportunity to at least ask those two questions. And again, as always, our sump pumps run 24/7, so this catch basin here, I know he said that it's overkill, but I don't know anything about catch basins, so I am definitely concerned about that. So if someone could answer those questions. Oh, one other question I had too, when we were here the last time, one of the members talked about fences encroaching upon their property. I want to be sure my fence is 30 feet inside of my property. I don't want them touching any of the little saplings or anything. I want to make sure that that's all going to be petitioned off and that nobody says, oh, I'm really sorry, I took down those 5 trees that were on your land, because my property goes 30 feet beyond my fence. And I want to make sure that that's known too, because I know a lot of people have said to me, oh, they'll say, well, we're sorry. So if I could have those questions answered, if we're going to have a sidewalk, what's going to be done here where they're showing trees planted?
Yes, one of you.
Remind me if I forget one of your questions. So, the trees south of the creek are in the neighborhood of where we have to bring the sanitary sewer up from the south. And so that's the point of that. It's just another area we could.
Sanitary sewer goes under the river?
Yes, and it will be drilled under the river, so there will be minimal impact during construction, so. And yes, there is a sidewalk proposed along Folsom and in the development as well.
Okay, and then could you just explain how a retention pond works for those of us that I
Sure.
really don't understand?
No problem. In general, the detention basin is, the storm sewer collection system is going to end up in the detention basin. The detention basin is size, is a function of the contributing area to it versus what the standards are basically that you outlet at a rate that is supposed to mimic a pre-development outlet rate at the point at which it discharges. So that's how you size the pond generally. In this case, we've oversized the pond so that we're going to outlet it. We intend to outlet it at 60% of what that allowable rate would normally be.
And where does that water go? Does it just evaporate? It goes
No,
into
it goes out into the creek via, there's a pipe on there you can see.
It goes into the creek?
Right. I don't know how I can point on this, but.
And are you clear cutting south of the,
Ma'am?
No, most of it's
That's
south
a
of.
question. He's answered it, so.
Well,
I still have time, I thought.
yeah.
You have 21 seconds.
Okay, so are you clear cutting south of the creek also?
No, we are putting most of the land south of the creek in a conservation easement as part of the terms of the wetland permit that we have a draft copy of from Eagle.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Well, right, because they insisted we leave walking paths through that area. Doesn't mean we're clear cutting those. We're just, that area just isn't supposed to be included in the conservation easement, sorry. Nor can the sanitary sewer area.
My name is Margaret Williams. My family and I have lived on Parker for 54 years. In 2007, I had to replace my septic tank and dig a field, a new field for the back. I was told by the city that I couldn't put it in the backyard because it wouldn't perk. Thankfully, I could put it in the front yard because my house is on a hill. I'm the first house on Parker there. This is kind of questionable to me that Mr. Michelson is planning on doing with the woods behind. That's what he's trying to do in the woods behind us. He wants to put 33 houses on top of the wetlands behind our homes. Many of the homeowners on Parker and Lundy have multiple sump pumps on their property already. We have one neighbor down the street that has actually 5 sump pumps on her property, but they're willing to live there because they love the area. So it's called a wetland for a reason. It's being fed by an underground spring or some source of water. That can't change. You can't really change Mother Nature. The water will still be coming up even if they put tons of fill dirt over it. It'll be spilling into the lower ground, which is our backyards and our homes. I'm saying this now because if something were to happen as a result of this getting worse, I'm sure we would seek legal counsel, do a class action legal counsel. Next thing I'm going to say is going to be very absurd for Mr. Michelson, but I'm going to say it anyway. I would like to give him something just to think about. Since he already owns the land, he could donate it to the city of Farmington Hills and get a tax write-off. They could designate it as a wetland preserve or a nature walk. He could name it after himself or somebody he would like to honor. Just tell me, is it worth destroying a community that lives where they love to live and develop a community that will cause so many problems? There are many other places that houses can be built, but how rare is it to have a natural habitat right here in our own city? Farmington Hills should be proud to have such an opportunity to preserve this unique area. Now, just 2 weeks ago, you denied zoning to properties on 13 Mile and Middle Belt, and it was almost for the same reasons. Only I think we have much more than that. We have a wetland that has beautiful habitat, all kinds of animals. Where are those animals going to go? I just think that, it would be a terrible shame. You could build houses anywhere, but you can't get this kind of living. And we're all very passionate about it. and I hope you really take it into consideration. That's it.
Thank you.
Hi, Kirk Bowman, Folsom Road. I'll try to keep this quick enough. Based on the things about cluster, you guys said it was something like 2.6 houses per acre. And with the description of the size of the property and the 27% unbuildable area, I believe the buildable area they have for putting these houses is actually putting it at more than 2.6 per the, whatever the C word was for the cluster. And number two is, I just wanted to make sure that goes out for you guys to think about. So the smaller area where the houses are will be more clustered than what the actual area of the building place is. And number two is, it sounded like they said they were going to have the retention pond draining into the creek. That means it won't be as much area for it to retain into, and I would have a concern about the fact that that creek, which already flows down and sometimes blocks off Orchard Lake Road to the point to where no one can drive across it, is probably going to be exacerbated, which is something that is happening by the amount of buildings we have in this area. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Next. Yeah, go ahead.
Address for a minute that question about the creek, because it's important for you to know that we're not going to be increasing the volume that's going into the creek.
Okay.
What I meant to say in an earlier visit to this podium was that, and I don't know if I didn't come across that well, but the outlet rate from the detention basin is designed to generally mimic a pre-development runoff rate. So if there were no other considerations we were aware of, the outlet rate from the detention basin should be the same as it was pre-development. And in this case, we're taking that whole developed area and putting it in that pond, but the area that contributes to the point at which the detention basin outlets is only 2.5 acres. So our outlet rate is based on the 2.5 acre number, not the however many acres of the whole development. So, and then in addition to that, as I tried to communicate earlier, we reduced the outlet rate from this pond to 60% of that rate. So we're making every effort we can to not make that a problem.
Hi, Paul Ryszanowski. I live on Lundy Drive. I'm concerned with the wetlands. You guys just show a river going through the middle of the neighborhood. I know of 3 areas where there are wetlands behind those woods. Years ago, 65 years ago, when they developed this land, there was a reason why they didn't develop the woods. It's because of the wetlands. Now, fast forward 65 years, with a little bit of money and a little bit of connections, the wetlands go away. What a miracle. Somebody mentioned, I think it was you, Tom, at the end of the last meeting about you were interested in lot sizes, at least if it was going to go through, keeping the same lot sizes of the neighborhood, you know, surrounding it. You know, we're not fans of this cluster housing going in there, 30-something houses. You know, you're trying to make as much money as you can. I understand that as a builder, but, you know, it doesn't do anything for our property value. This pond that you guys are going to put in is going to be real close behind my house. How nice to look outside the back of my house at the mosquitoes that thing's going to gather. You take all these trees out, where's all that water going to go? Those trees are taking a lot of water out of that soil. So, you know, it's going to be a miracle of drainage for you guys to get the stuff to, you know, exit properly. I just see nothing but problems with it. You know, you guys support the community. I understand that. And, you know, us as residents, we're hoping you will support us and not one person or one business. You know, we got to keep the woods. We need to keep the, you know, the wetlands. We need to keep it for the animals. You get tired of hearing about the animals, but, you know, there's a lot of them out there. And, you know, I've got a problem with a skunk in my yard that found the bird feeder, so I'm dealing with that right now, but I'm happy to deal with it, you know. I love the animals behind our house, and you guys are just gonna take it all away. They're gonna come in, they're gonna level the land, they're gonna ruin it. You know, do the right thing, like I said last time. Do the right thing here and, you know, keep the woods. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike Williams, 21824 Parker. I grew up with these woods, so I know them like the back of my hand. And I'm just wondering, like, did they get a regulatory wetland delineation by an Army Corps engineer? Because if you look at plots 1, 2, 3, and 4, 33, 32, 31, and 30, like, I've been back there a lot. And I don't know if you know what a soaker is, but if you walk back there, you're gonna get a soaker. That land is wet. Now, when I was growing up, on a street away from me, there was somebody that wanted to build a house. He had to fill in his land. He had to wait 10 years for the ground to settle before he could build on that land. I don't understand how much land, how much dirt are they talking about bringing in? Because right now, it is still underwater. Where is the water going to go? How is it possibly going to be fit to build on when they have, I don't know when they plan on doing this, but I'm sure it's not 10 years from now. How are those going to be structurally sound on that land in that area? I mean, the places where they're diverting the water to, it's almost like I don't even think that's exactly where the water is right now. And there is a lot of wet spots back there. I would encourage anybody on the council here to go and look at it and see what they're dealing with, because it is very wet back there. Now, so I don't know if they have a water course survey of the area impact. And also the IPAC report. Like, I know for a fact that there's probably red maple trees back there, which house like Indiana bats, tricolored bats. I know for a fact that we've seen marbled salamanders back there, which are endangered. And, you know, there's monarch butterflies. There's a lot of things that are endangered back there, I bet more than any of you know. And I would just encourage you to go see the area and to think about what's going to happen there, because I don't see how is it going to help the houses around there already. Where is that water going to go? It's not going to be a good thing. I mean, look at this plan. There's way too many houses back there, and I'm sure they're all going to be cookie cutter looking identical to each other. How is this going to be good for the neighborhood? That is my question. And how is it going to be done without making garbage houses underwater? That's my question.
Thank you.
One more question. So we lose power quite a bit. I'm not sure what grid you guys are going to tie into. Like, my side of the street does pretty well, but I mean, we lose power all the time, right? So where's the power demand coming from? Where are you going to feed that from? How are you going to keep us and our lights on?
Thank you.
I would just like to mention, the last time we were here for the last meeting, one of the council members took a walk back there, and he wanted to know how this guy is going to buffer our land. Cynthia Ludwig, and I live, pardon me? Ludwig, Ludwick.
Thank you.
And I do live on Osmus, but I grew up on Parker. He mentioned that all the fences were different places from wherever it is. We don't even know where his barrier is that he's making this. All the fences have been there for 20 years, 30 years. So they already own that property where their fences are. What are you going to do about that? That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Adverse possession.
My name is Olivia Ludwig. I also live on Parker. I wanted to mention also last committee meeting, that same gentleman that was just referenced also questioned the tree survey. and how old it was, and how a lot of the markers, that he had never seen such an old tree survey, and a lot of the markers had been overgrown. And he was questioning whether or not a new tree survey had been provided, and recommended that we had another tree survey. Some of the animals, which I know we've already touched on, but I have several photos collected of the marbled salamander. We have several birds of prey, horned owls, frogs, turkeys, hummingbirds, the red-tailed hawk, and we have downy woodpeckers also in our backyards.
Affiliated woodpeckers.
I'd like,
Big ones.
thank you.
Okay,
So we all,
your turn. They don't need to talk. Keep going.
well, we're all very passionate about our backyards, the animals that live there, and the sanctuary that is our neighborhood. Everyone with our dirt roads, we're one of the few areas one of the fewest neighborhoods that still has dirt roads. And, you know, you walk around and it feels like you're up north. I grew up north, and this neighborhood makes me feel at home, even though I'm living in the city. I enjoy going to the back of my property on Parker and looking at, you know, the wild land and hummingbirds and wildflowers that live on the other side of my fence. And that property is enjoyed by all of us. And it is the charm and value of our neighborhood, is the nature. And then also with collecting the water and drainage solutions, I know we've touched on this, but how is that water collection and all of the chemicals gonna affect the wetlands and that river? So, you know, once all that water is run off from the, you know, parking and the building development, all of those chemicals are gonna go into that river. Even though you're preserving that part of the wetlands, all of those animals and all of, you know, those wetlands will still be greatly affected by this development. So even though you may feel like you're meeting us halfway with that, it's still going to destroy what you leave us with.
Dragos Ionescu, Lundy Drive. Have a few questions, perhaps. They're going to be quick for the developer. Is there a maintenance plan for the drain, and who will pay for that? Is it the city, some association fee? I'm imagining every few years you need to clean it out, stuff like that.
Can I answer that right now?
Yeah.
This is going to be a site condominium. The stormwater system is going to be maintained by the association based on documents that I normally see involved with Farmington Hills projects. The city has the right to take over the responsibility if the condominium association doesn't. They'll be responsible for maintaining the pipes that run along the backyards from Folsom all the way back to the detention basin, as well as maintaining the detention basin and the outlet. Again, the documents normally we would sign would say if they don't, then the city of Farmington Hills can and assess those owners.
Okay, thank you. My property is on the north end where the pond is that came up a few times. I understand that will be drained, and, you know, that's the plan. If I understood correctly, there will be trees planted at the back of those properties, but trees planted. Is that correct? I'm just asking.
We're going to maintain.
In my case, there will not be any trees because the pond is there, so you'll need to plant some.
Actually, you can see on that drawing the number of trees that will be planted because
Okay,
it shows
that
part of
shows
the
trees.
landscape plan as well as the trees. You can see on the north side how many trees are planted and as well as on the south side.
Okay, thank you. And then another question for my clarification. Did I understand correctly that some wildlife will be relocated?
As part of the wetland permit, we're going to be required to relocate any herpetofauna, which are the reptiles and the amphibians, to adjacent areas, and with respect to flying things or running things, we're supposed to, during the construction period, provide to allow them to move off the property.
I guess I'm asking because if I understand correctly, some of them will be relocated on my property, correct? Just to make sure I understand.
They will not be relocated onto your property.
No, okay.
It has to be onto the property that.
Okay, so
it'll
maybe
be
where the
it'll be
pond,
wetland
okay, gotcha,
area that will
okay,
move it
okay. That, I thought it said the adjacent property, so I was like, okay.
Yeah, wrong adjacent. No.
Okay, okay. And then the houses, will they look like what's on Riverwalk Court, I believe it's called? Like similar kind of look and feel? You know what I'm talking about? Similar? Okay, so not like apartment buildings or, okay,
It's all single family.
okay. And then maybe you mentioned this already. Will there be a sidewalk on Folsom?
Yes.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. I gave to the chair and members a couple of articles that I've written over the past on creeks and the importance of them, and on vernal ponds. Vernal ponds, if you don't know, are those that fill with water partially early in the year and provide the only habitat for salamanders, frogs, and other forms that would be eaten by fish if it was in a body of water that held fish. So vernal ponds are extremely important to the habitat of salamanders and frogs and toads and things along that line. I'm Joe Derrick. I live on 10 Mile Road. I'm the former city naturalist for the city of Farmington Hills, although I've been a naturalist my entire life. I've been lecturing on nature gardens, outdoor classes since 1977. No one makes the world of nature as well as nature does, and they're not making any more of it. I wonder if any of the planning commissioners have walked the property with an environmentalist or a naturalist. The city wanted a nature area at the north end of town and in the middle of town and the south end of town when I worked with Bill Kostick many years ago. And unfortunately, every time Bill Kostick was interested in the property, the cost went up. So we weren't able to do that. But he really wanted to look for a place in the south end of town. I surveyed this property for the city manager's office about 25 years ago. I spent 2 days there. I looked at all of the trees, the beech, the maples, the tulip, the wild Michigan cherry, and a lot of the other trees. But when you really want to survey a wild area, you need to do it in all 4 seasons of the year. When I laid out the trails at Woodland Hills, our nature preserve, I spent the entire year looking at all of the seasons to make sure I was trying to put the trails in the right places. Vernal ponds, wetlands. Wetlands provide a place for amphibians again to breed. The area, if you build any homes there, will be hotter with more roofs, concrete, and less trees. These are the largest and oldest trees that I've seen in the city from all of the parks. I agree with one of the earlier speakers. These trees have probably been way over there 100 years. Many of them have a canopy that's so high you need binoculars to see the leaves to try to identify some of the trees, unless you can identify them by their bark. These are the oldest, like I said, that I've seen in the city. There are pileated woodpeckers there and bald eagles occasionally. They need large forested areas in order to survive and breed. You can't replace a forest. Cutting down 100-year-old trees and replacing them with 6, 8, or 10 footers, most not species original to the area, is garbage. Before the road was built on the west side of the property, and I'm not familiar with all the roads, it appeared as to be one large wetland.
Time's up.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow. Okay, I'm done.
Thanks, Charlie.
My name is Elizabeth Bowman. I'm on Folsom. The Folsom Road woods are an important habitat that should remain protected and not bulldozed just because you think it doesn't have worth. We residents whose homes line the woods on either side were never given the opportunity to purchase any of the plots of land that attach to our properties or an opportunity to request the city purchase the plots and keep them protected. A developer who doesn't know this community purchased the land and wants to remove all the life to turn a profit instead of truly listening and hearing us. Just south off Folsom Road, there's a large area of wetland. We've talked about it immensely. It's the first couple of lots. It has standing water that stays fully wet much, if not all year. And it's home to hundreds of frogs and toads that I literally hear chirping every single day, all day. They're going to be the first ones that are going to be affected because even though they said that they're going to relocate them, how do you successfully, safely relocate amphibians without injuring or killing some of them? I don't know. So that's a concern. Next, there are countless species of birds, right, who make their trees homes, and they're going to lose the valuable habitat to raise their young because we know the big trees aren't going to stay because their root systems reach throughout the entire area, and they're going to be in the way of digging the earth and putting in roads and foundations. The developer has said that they're going to keep some mature trees. I've seen the tree survey and the marker trees that they've said they're going to keep. But I'm concerned, the back of the property line, it looks like they're putting in new trees, but they're not going to keep the trees that are already there lining our properties. Why wouldn't they keep the existing trees in the back of the lot? There are many species of mammals that live in the woods that won't have anywhere else to go. Once the digging starts, they say like, well, we're going to give them time to move on, but where? There's nowhere else for them to go. It just really sounds like we don't care what happens to them once we can't see them anymore. Out of sight, out of mind. So I live at the end of Lundy, right next to Folsom. My household works from home 5 days a week. So this development's really going to destroy the peace that we have. I mean, I walk outside every day for lunch just to see the woods, to see the nature. Like that's pretty much the woods are the biggest reason we purchased a house in Farmington Hills in this area. I mean, there are so many other developments nearby. And it just seems like we don't need another one. I would hate to. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joe Curran. I live on Parker. I share all the concerns of my neighbors that you heard here tonight and at greater length at the previous public hearing on this matter. My wife and I bought our house where we live because of these woods, and I completely believe that this project would destroy the character of our neighborhood. We can sit in our yard, and as somebody else said previously, you could believe that you're up north, and we're only half a mile from 8 Mile Road. This is a unique property. Procedurally, at the conclusion of the last meeting, and I'm reading from the meeting minutes, Commissioner Stimson said he supported the motion in order to give the applicant a chance to come back with a better plan, as he did not support the entire preliminary plan. The 55-foot width of the lots was too narrow and was out of character with this neighborhood. That hasn't been done. They haven't come back with any changes to the lot sizes. They're exactly the same size. All they did was eliminate 3 or 4 lots that they had to eliminate because of the wetlands issue. So I ask you, and I submit that that alone is grounds to reject this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
The name's George Wright. Birchwood Street. Now, a lot of the detailed information's already been presented, a lot of these things about the water and so on. I'd just like to look at a bigger picture. I'd like to kind of go back to about 1980, when the city of Farmington Hills had the opportunity to purchase and to take care of and to give to this community Heritage Park. Everybody worked together on that project. Bill Kostick, Doug Grainer. Doug worked real hard getting grants The city went to bat, found ways to raise money. People approached the Spicer family. They found ways to get that property. And now we have a 212-acre piece of beautiful nature in the center of Farmington Hills that people from all over the county are going to come to. And now Oakland County wants to come in here and partner with the city because they know the place is so beautiful. So I'm just asking everybody, what are we doing? Just in the last few years, a big parcel behind us on Birchwood, west of Mayfield, that was gone. Then the huge playfield at Flanders School, that was gone. Now they're, I hate to use the word developing, tearing down trees at one of the last big parcels of land west of Farmington Road, north of Colfax. You drive by there now, huge machines out there taking out all the trees to build more houses. What's happening here is that we're losing the last pieces of open natural property in the city of Farmington Hills. You can't replace that. Heritage Park is what it is because people work together to save that land. And now kids and camps and everybody else can go over there and use it. We've got these other parcels that are available. What are you going to do? Let those go too? You can't replace these properties, folks. You can't do it. There's no properties left south of M5. Once this goes, they're gone. What's the future going to say about what we've done? I could say a lot of other things, but I'm just asking the Planning Commission and the City Council to consider the total picture of what's going on here. What keeps the property values up around Heritage Park? Because all those people want to live there. It's a beautiful area. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm Michelle Gala. I live on Parker. My lot starts about 100 feet from where he wants to put this road. My house is over 100 years old, so is many of the other houses on the street. Yes, there's a huge problem with water. There's going to be a lot of noise and other pollutions involved. But what I want to really address is the way we've been treated through this whole thing. He brags about being in this industry for over 40 years. I've been in commercial real estate now for over 30 years. I've worked with a lot of the brokers he works with. Just because you're in a job does not mean that you're good or every project you want to do is good. You know, you have to look at that. He's treated us with quotes in the paper saying, these are typical complaints, but when we're done, everybody is very, very happy. No, they're not, okay? We can buy the property if we want for $1.8 million. If we had that kind of money, we'd be owning one of those rich houses like others do in other cities. We can't afford that. We have spent decades with you guys, with one developer after another. Oh, I'm going to put in these cluster homes. They realize they can't do it. It doesn't work. You know, in this area, it does not work. We lovingly call our section the poor section of Farmington Hills. We're like literally built on the other side of the railroad tracks that used to be there. We are sandwiched between a freeway and 8 Mile light industrial. We don't have parks and stuff that we can go to in our square mile. And we do have something that other areas don't have. Our street was developed 100 years ago. That's when the original site plan started, 100 years ago. He was asked to get a traffic study because if you've seen any of the traffic that's on Folsom and Orchard Lake and Freedom, especially during rush hour, it only takes one vehicle and you cannot, turning left and you can't go through there. You have to wait several lights to get through there. Folsom Road is not equipped to handle all this traffic. And I also want to make sure that you realize too, that if he builds these 33 houses in our square mile, 30% will be developed primarily from him, and he'll hit 100 houses that he has developed in this area. So now we're talking like 1 or 2, 100 houses. His first development at Riverwalk messed up the flow of the stream so that now the marsh is flooding over Parker. It's wiping out our neighbor's backyard because it doesn't have the correct drainage anymore. And as somebody else mentioned about Orchard Lake is now flooding. So you can't cross Orchard Lake if there's heavy rain through that. Lastly, I want to explain to you about green space. We brag and brag about, oh, we live in Farmington Hills, green, because we're used to that. We have the lowest acreage of parks in our area compared to other cities. Just so you remember that, lowest, 600 acres, that's it.
I have one more quick question. Are these properties for rent or are these for to buy? Are these?
They're for sale.
Okay, just making sure. Because, I mean, it seems like
Okay.
today, the way the things are
That was
going.
the one question. Go ahead.
The way the things are going, this property is beneficial to our kids' futures as well. And if you're gonna build a home to rent, that doesn't do much for future generations. Like, you know, our kids need to own homes. That's one of the easiest ways to gain generational wealth. You're trying to take it away.
Okay, who's next? Of course.
I'd just like to say that there was a property on Parker in Colfax that a man,
You got a walker, though.
sorry. There's a property on Parker in Colfax that a man owned, and he got permission from the city. Not only permission, it was more than that, but he had an endangered plant on his property, and he'd never had to cut his grass. Maybe some of you remember that. But it's an endangered plant, and he didn't have to cut his grass. So, I mean, I know that we have that in the woods. I'm sure that we have something for research if they look for that.
Okay, thank you.
People are coming up more than once.
I'm Cynthia Ludwig again from Osmus. I would just like to formally request that you come and look at the woods. That's all we are asking. You come and look at it.
I have traveled the road, just for your information. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Margie Kaza. I live on Parker at 21608. My question is, my neighbor right next door to me is adjacent to the wood. There's woods where you're planning to go into off of Parker. How many feet away from her house is that road going to be? Coming in off Parker, going around. I mean, if it's only going to be 25 feet, she's going to be able to reach out her window and pretty much touch it. I mean, that's a lot of noise for her. I mean, she's up in age. She's in her late 70s, early 80s.
Checking on the answer to that.
Next week.
And also, I grew up in Farmington when it was a township. I mean, I lived by Heritage Park. I played in that when it was woods. Spent time with Mrs. Spicer and her daughter Liz. My kids went, or my brothers and sisters went to school with all of them. So for that to be what it is today is awesome. I mean, Mrs. Spicer came down our road on her horse. Her and Liz used to ride all the time. Liz backpacked up and down. So I grew up. So when my husband and I were looking for a house and we came across the one we live in, which is on Parker, he loved it. He grew up in Windsor, Ontario. So he was in the city. And for him to come and see Mother Nature right in our backyard was awesome. And I lost him 4 years ago, so I get to still enjoy it. I mean, he probably does from up there, but I would love to see it stay. I really, really would. I mean, since I grew up playing in the fields of Heritage Park before it was even developed.
25 feet.
25 feet. So that's from a distance
That's
of
to the
from
property
here.
line,
From the property line, and her property line is really, it's probably from here to that podium.
a minimum of 30 feet.
Well, that's not, it's like you said.
Yeah, I mean, she's from here, probably, her lot line's
with her in
from
the
here to
hallway.
that.
So we could have other people.
And then you're gonna have the road, that's awfully close for her.
25 feet from the curb. 25 feet from the curb to the property line. We moved it over, and you can see that in the drawing to the right, to make sure we got as much space as we could away from that.
How far from the creek is that? Because that's right where the creek comes through is that land. Because there was a gentleman that bought that property.
Along that, that's just the road.
Her house, her house is here, it's where you've got the sign, and then there's another house. In fact, the gentleman that was there, they couldn't buy, he bought the land planning to develop it, and he couldn't because of it being wetlands. And the other side of it,
Thank you.
there was a gentleman that had dug out the ditches from Garden City, he worked for Garden City, and he brought ditches in, or a plow to dig out the ditch, so the water wouldn't flow.
Hi, my name is Audrey Williams, and I live off Lundy. I'm not going to really pull at your heartstrings too much about how endearing the neighborhood is, which it is, but I'm not too familiar with this builder. The only familiarness I have with him is that he tore down my grade school, playground, many other wooded areas that I've seen with just box cut houses, you know, and the cluster of houses that he's proposing, I'm sure is going to be expensive. It sounds like HOA. It's not even like for like average people to afford. You know, it's going to be putting people probably in a hard position, especially if they have to keep up these water systems. And that road that's running through Parker is right next to the river. I go down it every day. I walk the neighborhood. It is right next to the river. And those big water tanks that you have that are going to, I don't know if you're going to have walls around them to protect children in the neighborhood or whatnot. It'd be big mosquito infestations. My land, I'm not lucky enough to have sump pumps run, which both my neighbors do, all the time, all the time. I'm on a slab. So when I walk out in the back of my yard, it's squish, squish, squish. I don't have grass. It doesn't grow. So I am concerned. And I just have seen his other projects. I've seen the destruction. We have natural trees, oxygen. We have many, many different species of animals. And how are you going to gently take all this wildlife and go take them off to this farmland that exists? It isn't going to happen. It's false promises. They don't care. All I know is, and I can bet this, if they do get the clearance, there's going to be big black fences going around, and those trees are going to be coming down within a day or two. Many more than that's said that's going to come down. And the little trees that they're planting up in the areas will be just that, little trees. A lot of life will be lost. That's all I have.
Thank you. Can I answer a question for you on moving animals?
Why not? Why are we letting people speak twice when there's other people who haven't spoken?
Back in the 60s, I worked for the Humane Society for a couple of years. And of course, when people had problems with animals, you could, and even today, you can go to a hardware store. You can maybe borrow a live trap from your city. Of course, the company is called Have a Heart. Most of the pest control companies use those traps. When most of these animals are moved, 50% or better of them die because they've been taken out of their environment and their homes. They're territorial. They get into problems. They cross roads. And when I was at Heritage Park, weekly we had people bringing trapped animals they didn't want around their home to the park. Those animals immediately went into the newest or the next subdivision. This issue of reptiles and amphibians and moving things along that line, they're extremely delicate. We know people at the zoo at Amphibieville. I know other experts who've worked with things along this line. When you move things like snakes or turtles or other things, they don't stay put where you place them. They start to move and they try to head back to where they might have come from, depending on the distance that you've moved them. Most of them die. So there's no happy ending to any of this. All I can say to you is, in my lifetime, I've seen so much disappear when up north used to start across 8 Mile Road. Please save this property. It's very unique. The homes are very unique. You think you're up north. They're a great group of people. I don't live there, but do what you can to save it.
Cut her off, so let's let her talk now.
I thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Hello, my name's Laura Fowler. I live on Lundy, 21754. I have a unique perspective. I don't see anyone talking about their young kids, but I've got 3 that I have to worry about. Walking to Flanders Park over yonder here is a huge routine for us. So one of my main concerns is maintaining that walkability to get to that park. As many others have said, south of M5, there isn't a whole lot in Farmington Hills for young families, you know, and this is a wildlife area that it's a wild playground, you know? So please maintain at least the walkability and the ability to get to Flanders Park. The other perspective I offer is that I managed the largest HOA in Wayne County for a while. And I can tell you that the homes backing up from Parker and Lundy are going to have a hard time in communication and dealing with issues with an HOA in an area that does not have HOAs. You know, the people who live there are going to be accustomed to fencing laws and, you know, other regulations within their fancy community, and they're going to be backing up to people who don't. So it's going to be a lot of arguments and it's going to be a lot of issues to try and resolve. The other issue is traffic. I would really plead with the council to require a traffic report of the area, particularly over by Ollie's where the on-ramp is to M5. I personally have almost had several accidents there in the morning, getting my kids to school, adding at least 33 homes, that's 66 additional cars during rush hour in the morning and in the afternoon. I would plead that that is considered before they approve this type of cluster in our community. I don't back up to the development. I'm actually across the street on Lundy, but last October when we had torrential rains and one of my sub pumps went out, I had 24 hours to get that rocking and rolling before my basement was totaled. And I have 2, and I'm not even the closest. So I wholeheartedly agree with everyone that's saying the flooding is 100% an issue. The trees, I would plead that there is some sort of written agreement that some of the mature trees that take up insurmountable amounts of water from the wetlands are preserved.
Thank you.
David Lehner, Lundy. I'm a teacher in the Farmington Public Schools. I teach at Power Middle School. If we add another 33 houses into this neighborhood, that also adds potential students, which is awesome. But the problem is this council willing to help the district rebuild, remodify Gill Elementary, which is already full right now, and Power Middle School? We are at capacity. The first through third grade at Gill has full load of students. You're supposed to have 24 students per teacher. Right now, they're at 28 students. in a classroom. So as much as I would love more students, I think the nature and the trees and all that stuff is a better go for what we have right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Tom Progar on Flanders, and I just came here to listen today, but I did want to respond. When Stuart Michelson said that they have a long-standing, and the Windmill Group has a long-standing tradition and relationship with the city, I just want to say, you are despised in this city. We do not like you here, and we want you to leave. And I don't mean to be mean like that, but we just...
It's not a land issue you're talking about.
Talk about land issue.
That's a personality issue.
Sorry.
Grievance.
We are quickly running out of our wooded areas, as many people already stated, so I'm not going to go into that. But yes, I'm reiterating that please look at the bigger picture. Let's save some of this wooded area that will be gone forever. You can't replace these trees with the trees they're going to bring in. That's a false idea. Let's have an imagination here. Like George earlier mentioned, can we save this property somehow where we have a nature trail and like the great majority of it is just left untouched for future generations? We already built everything we can build. This land is unbuildable. We have wetlands, rivers, heavily wooded. They spoke of the animals that will be killed. What a farce to say we're going to come and bring all these animals to some kind of sanctuary or something. What a joke. They don't care about any of that. They want to have their millions of dollars expand. That's all they care about. They don't care about this property. They don't care about this neighborhood. And it's for their city to stand up and say, enough's enough. This is unbuildable land, and we should say no to this property. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Brooks, I live on Lundy Street. And one thing I just really want to touch on, everybody's talking about the water that they have in their yards. And it's always, always, always wet. And what we've ended up having to do, our sump pump runs about every 20 minutes. And if it fails, we're done in about maybe 3 hours. So we ended up installing a whole home generator just for this problem, which cost thousands of dollars to do, but just to protect our property. This property that they're proposing to build on sits much higher than our property does. And my concern is they're talking about draining into the pond, draining down the street. Who's going to maintain these drains? How is that going to work? Are they going to get water to run uphill? I mean, I don't know how that works, but really concerned about the water issue at the house.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, everyone. Andrew Williams. I grew up on Parker Street. Thank you all for still being here. I know it's a late night and appreciate it. But I just want you all to look at that plot up there and just think about your neighborhood. And the street of Parker right there, there's about 12 houses. And then in the same amount of space that is being proposed here, there's 33 houses. It looks to me like you're putting a trailer park over there. And it's so obvious to look at that. You see like there's a stream that goes through the back, and I remember growing up investigating the stream and catching crayfish and other little fish that were in there and putting them back. We never took them away, but putting them back and just roaming through the woods. It was nice, and that's part of the charm is Farmington Hills. You have the towny part, and then you also have the hills part, which we're losing it. You know, you look at 12 Mile, how developed that is, and where we've gone through in our area. This is something that I thought was always going to be there, but it's, you know, it looks like it's, you know, in a different path right now. But one thing I wanted to say is that when you look at that and you see the stream on the one side, there's going to be more than one stream after this, because there's, with the swales and the way that they're having it set up, there's going to be two rivers going alongside, you know, pushing all the water into people's backyards, because already there's an issue. Every house on the street, they know about, you have to have sump pumps. You walk down there in the springtime, they're going constantly. So there's already a water issue. And then you put on top of that, it's lovely that they show the trees on there, but that's almost all going to be concrete when they're done with it. And all that does is it pushes all the water off to the edges. The edges is going to be Parker on the one side and then Lundy on the other side. So I don't know, it's going to be different. And I think if you looked at that and you looked at this in your backyard, I'm pretty sure that each one of you up there would not have something that was microscoping, you know, putting things at a smaller size than what your plots of land are. And that's what, it's totally losing the character of the area. You know, it is nice, it is woodlands there, but it's also, it's way out of character if you look at it. It looks like a trailer park to me. That's almost the same setup as they would do for a trailer park. It's just gonna be all concrete and the woods will be gone. So thank you for your time.
I'm going to be bold and ask for 1 minute. There's a home that's to the very north of this road that's going through on the Parker side. They're not here tonight, they're Seabolts, because they're an elderly couple who's recently had a death in the home. So they're unable to be here. These are the narrow properties that are just to the north and of where the road's going to go through. He may say that it's 25 feet away from the property line, but these homes were not built according to modern standards. So these homes are probably a little bit closer to these property lines than you probably think. So I would really consider that this property would not be developed because it would not conform to be able to get a fire engine in there and out if it wasn't for this property, this road that's going through onto Parker. Parker's a dirt road. A lot of these homes are still on septic fields and wells, and that's not even been brought up here. I mean, we're lucky over on Lundy that we do have city water and city sewage, but these homes over here on Parker are old. They've been there for hundreds, 50 years, and many of them brought up to the very edge of their property lines. So I really, really think you guys really need to consider how close this road is going to be to people's homes. I mean, they're going to be closer than the 25 feet that he's talking to, because it's not close to the property line, is close to their home. Thank you.
Brandon Wade, Lundy. Starting to touch on a concern that I have. Maybe I missed it, but was the sewer connected to Folsom, or where's the sewer getting connected to? Yeah, sanitary. Lundy. So I have city sewer now. I have a new concern, not just water, but about the brown water and the sewer capacity being shared with 33 more houses. So.
Okay. I don't see anyone else moving. I'm going to close the public hearing.
Get it.
What?
It's in the gravel.
Oh, you want me? There you go.
This will make you feel better.
I'll use them now. Any questions?
You want them to respond?
Yeah. Let's hear from the developer.
I have a question.
Yeah,
If
okay.
I may.
Mr. Michelson?
Yeah.
Hi. The question the gentleman asked about what direction would the wetlands remain towards Colfax? Going towards.
Well, you can see on the drawing, all the
I can't.
dots. You
So-
can't see the drawing?
I can't. So
Yeah.
just tell me, towards Colfax.
South towards Colfax.
South towards Colfax is where the wetlands will remain.
Plus,
Almost.
Right there.
plus where lots 13 and 14 used to be, that's another wetlands.
Got it.
So we lost those 2 lots for wetlands.
To keep the wetlands. Got it. Thank you.
The only response that I have, and I understand all the sentiment, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's pretty typical that nobody wants to lose the land behind them. But all the land gets developed unless it's becomes a park or whatever, the city buys it. We meet all the qualifications. We've done everything we can to stay out of the river, to have a conservation easement. We spent a lot of money, spent a year of our time getting a wetlands permit before we even got the site plan approved, which is backwards. We, in spite of it, and I understand their concerns, believe me, I do, we qualify. So, I mean, we should get approved.
Barry?
I listened to what everybody said. Before everybody had a chance to talk, I asked the question about, I was concerned about the land, whether it's flat or I could see from the plans that there was a height change. And that's why I asked the question, I asked about which is higher and which is lower. This property is actually lower. I asked about water, and I was told that there's going to be swales, which is what they're required to do. And the one thing I'd like to say is that this has to go through city engineering, and the engineering department's already gone through this. And the reason why there's detention, they're not retention ponds, they're detention ponds on the property is because that whenever you build anything in Farmington Hills now, they have to have on-site retention so that the water does not go onto the neighboring properties. That's why you see those two, that's a two-story, it has an overflow situation into it. So you have the original detention and you have another one. And then eventually it's supposed to go off at an agricultural rate. You didn't use that term, but that's the term that we've been using for the 35 years I've been around on Planning Commission and on council. So they won't be allowed to build any homes on property if they don't have proper water retention on the property. So it doesn't go on the neighboring properties. That's why we have an engineering department, and that's why we set forth rules. So I asked that question to begin with, and I wanted to get an answer so that you knew that they were required to do that. So the city engineering department will be following anything that's done on this property as it goes along to make sure they meet our standards and ordinances so it doesn't run off on other people's properties. The other thing that let's see what other, so I talked about on-site detention. I actually, why didn't we use land banking? City of Farmington Hills never did land banking. Well before I got involved in the city, the council at that time decided not to do land banking because they didn't want to spend the money to buy somebody else's property. So land banking is not really, wasn't really an option. The other thing that the reason they're asking for a cluster option, and I know that because of the cluster option, homes are being put closer together. The reason why you use the cluster option is because some portions of this property are not buildable. And it preserves, with the cluster option, they're still using the same amount of property that would be allowed in that RA, I think it's an RA3. So the number of homes that are being built are allowed in an RA3 district, but they're being put closer together so that property can be held to maintain the wetlands. They can't build on some of the wetlands anyway, but I'm just trying to explain to you how our ordinances work and why a cluster option was okay for this, and that's because they were serving property in your area to allow so that the water stays there for one, and to preserve that particular area of the property, and that's why the homes are closer together. if they were able to build on the whole area, they would be spread out over, but they still be building the same amount of homes. That's allowed under our ordinances because they were pre-approved for a cluster option. There was another question. Are they allowed to go on your property? No, they're not allowed to go on your property. It's your property, not their property. And if they do filter over onto your property, you have a right to call the city up and say, hey, they're trespassing. You can call and ask that question. They can only build on their property. They can't build on your property. Okay. I think that answered most of the people had these concerns, and we have these concerns also. And I wanted to at least explain to you what some of the concerns that you have. You are protected in most instances. As far as the animals are concerned, we don't have a control over that. I will tell you, I've been living in my home for 42 years, and Joe, I've told this to Joe before, I live not too far from Heritage Park, and the deer come to my house all the time. And when I first moved in, there were no deer there. Now I see deer every day. The thing is, the animals will adapt. In the spring, I have hundreds of toads hopping all over my property, and I'm not anywhere near water. I still haven't quite figured out how they get there, but we have toads. I found a snake the other day. I have deer all the time. We have skunks too. So the animals will learn to adapt if something is built there. And I wish you'd take the way, if you want to keep the woodpeckers, that's fine, because they keep poking holes in my house. But I hope this answered you raised a lot of issues, and I hope this answered some of the questions that you raised, because you were telling us your concerns, but no one was responding to what your concerns were. And again, the city is there not only to allow people to develop property, but to protect the people that are already there. And you do have your rights. And if they try to do anything that's not within the city code, you have a right to object to it, and the city engineering department will make them follow our codes. So, but I don't know that they don't do answer. It's not a question and answer situation. Joe, where's your hat? Okay, okay. I recognize you now. Oh, no.
Can I ask one question for Mr. Gardner or answer something? You mentioned.
No, he's the chair.
Mr. Chairman, can I make one?
We're going to get a dialogue going. It's past my bedtime, Joe. It must be past your bedtime, too.
Very quick.
I doubt it.
Pardon me?
I doubt it.
Oh, no, it isn't very quick.
Very quick, Joe.
We've talked about deer before.
Yes.
Deer travel around a lot.
Yes, they do.
They eat all kinds of things. They eat a lot of buckthorn. There are certain other animals that travel around a lot. But snakes and reptiles and amphibians are generally in a particular area where the acidity of the property is correct, the water's correct. They just can't leave and travel around and go somewhere else and live a very happy time.
I took this picture a few weeks ago. It was up by my driveway by a tree. I had a snake. I get snakes.
Well, yeah, they're snakes, but then you could have had snakes that released them in your neighborhood. Because most people on the east side go west at 2 in the morning and release trapped animals, and then the west siders go east at 2 in the morning and release trapped animals. We used to see that all the time when I worked for the Humane Society. The deer can travel, that's true. They weren't here before. Now we have turkeys. They can travel, they can fly. But all these other smaller animals, if the environment that they're living in is 100 feet by 100 feet and it's only conducive for them to live there and to be able to reproduce, and you move them someplace else, they're dead. So they're relinquished to stay in that small area. So everything,
I understand.
I know, I've known you a long time, but everything you said wasn't correct.
Everything I said was incorrect. They don't adapt.
No, they don't adapt.
They did in my neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Dale?
So, so Barry went over a lot of the issues. I know probably most of what we're going to say is not going to be very satisfactory. I mean, we face, as your volunteers in the community on the planning commission, we're faced with enforcing our ordinances. In this case, if we don't control it, it's held under private property. People have right to develop property. I mean, it's the United States of America. They have the right to develop property. If you, as an association, went in and bought that property, you'd control the property. So what we're faced with under private ownership is that a piece of property that qualified for a cluster came before us at a higher density than it is right now, came before us. We had some issues because we knew there were wetlands there. They said, well, we'll preserve the wetlands, but we're going to group together our density that's allowed under the ordinance. I mean, it's in our code of ordinances, the densities and what they can get. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to stay out of the wetlands, and we're going to group the housing. That you're right. It's not the width of your properties. It isn't, but that's what the ordinance is. So I know you're frustrated. Pardon?
Mr. Chair. Please stop letting.
So let me finish. So
Right here.
I'm just saying,
March of '25, so it's,
okay, so if there's, so,
you don't believe what I'm showing you right now?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
public hearing's over. Public
Yes.
hearing is over.
so I'll just keep my comments. So we're faced with an ordinance, and well, it's what we're dealing with. It's what the reality is. We're dealing in reality. This is what we can't just say, we'll, deny it, and then we could be sued, and then the taxpayers will pay some sort of judgment or whatever, and then you'll pay. So we're.
Sit down. Sit down.
Sir, they would have larger lots if they could spread the development over the whole piece of property, but they're set, they get credit for the land, for the density, for all of it. So the trade-off is.
I understand that. With this plan that they came with before, we told them to come back with larger lots. They didn't.
You cited one commissioner. That wasn't necessarily the feelings of all the commissioners. They came back and it's reduced than it was before. It was 38, now it's 33. So, but what I'm saying is, this is the rules that we have to follow. But you're right. It'd be easy for us to say, we heard you and we know the issues and they're going to cut down a lot of trees. We've seen development and we're aware of their developments within our community. I got one behind my property, in my subdivision, near me. So, but things change. So as your planning commission, this comes before us, and that's why you've got the 2-year history of what you've got. They came in, we qualified it because the parcel qualified for the cluster under our ordinance. Long piece, major road, wetlands, they qualified. Then the issue is density. They said, okay, we went in, they actually went and did the wetlands survey first, figure out where the delineation of the wetlands are, and then said, okay, we're not going to be in there. We're going to stay out of the wetlands. We'll concentrate our development on this end. So then the issue is, under our ordinances, the engineering standards, they cannot, no water off of this property can go onto your property. If anything, history has shown, probably water on your property will be collected by their infrastructure and go into that retention pond. You may even see some relief in your wetland. I'm not going to say that's going to happen, but they can't discharge any of their water off this property onto your property. So for me, it's frustrating. I feel bad. It's not easy for us up here. You guys are disappointed, frustrated, or whatever, but we're faced with the rules. These are the rules, and this is the ordinance, and this is what we're faced with. And I know you're going to be disappointed. I'm not sure what this commission is going to do, but that's where we're at. That's the ordinance. You got the cluster option, so property owners have a reasonable expectation they can develop their land. And we can talk about saving the trees or whatever, but unless you control it, somebody else is going to control it, and they're going to use the laws and codes or whatever to do what they want to do with the land, and somebody else owns it. So, and we have to then sit here and adjudicate that. And we have to follow the rules. I'm done. Thank you.
Yes.
So, I have a question to the builders about, one of the gentlemen got up and talked about Orchard Lake, the creek overflows over there. So I was wondering if you knew whether the creek was owned by the city, the county, or the state?
As far as I know, it's a natural water course regulated by Eagle, the state.
Okay.
I guess through the chair, sort of none of the above. It's just a natural water course. People own what, the land underneath it. This portion, the land underneath it is owned by the applicant here, but that's, I mean, it's not like a road. It's a natural feature. It just crosses people's property.
This particular creek just exists naturally.
Correct.
It's not
Correct.
something that was cut into.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay, let's call for a motion.
I don't know.
I'll do it.
All right, I'll do it.
Mrs. Ludwig, please.
So to be clear, we didn't argue over that. We made a statement. You guys weren't a part of the conversation. We were. So we didn't argue over that. But I am ready to make
Okay.
I would like to read today. I move to recommend the city council that the application for cluster site plan approval 54-4-2025 dated February 25, 2025, as revised, submitted by Forest at Riverwalk Development LLC be approved. Because the plans are consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the master plan and applicable provisions of the one-family cluster option in section 34-3.17.2.b of the zoning ordinance, specifically sections 2, 6, and 8, subject to the following findings and conditions. Findings: the parcel proposed for use as a cluster development abuts a one-family residential district. The Planning Commission has determined that the abutting one-family district is effectively buffered by planting all 100 replacement trees, apart from 6, along the rear property lines of the lots backing up to neighboring residential properties. Conditions: all outstanding issues identified in Giffords-Webster's July 22, 2025 review shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the city planner. All outstanding issues identified in the city engineer's July 24, 2025 inter-office correspondence shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the city engineer. And all outstanding issues identified in the fire marshal's July 25, 2025 inter-office correspondence shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the fire marshal.
Is there support?
Support.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. It's going to be before city council.
You made your mind up.
Get out.
My sister.
Get out. Hey, out. Recess. We're not. They hit him with you. Vile people. come on.
I didn't talk to him.
What do we live? We didn't say anything.
Huh? Oh, you're all staying here. We're just,
I was talking to the city attorney because Zach, I didn't talk to them.
No. Are we taking a 5-minute?
Stewart's waved to me. I didn't recognize him. He looks like
City
a-
council, the city council meeting is the third, is it the third Monday?
I think it's October 13th, the next city council meeting?
The next one.
Yes, October 13th.
October 13th.
The guy that was with the catering.
Yes, ma'am.
I've sued him before.
Diane, can you
My client.
make the turn for that meeting, or should it be in November?
He owned Gus's Chicken.
You gotta advertise.
It does need to be advertised.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's gonna
we
be
may-
probably November.
How long do they have to notify it?
That's all right.
I had to ask the city attorney if it's all right for me to do
It may
anything
not be
because
on the October
I've sued
meeting.
him.
It might be November.
This is not a good time
It's just
to be
one of his
bringing
companies.
projects.
Well, they have to notice a public hearing.
This reach of his restaurant,
takes
so
it
if
in.
it goes under, you can't get him. I've never met him though, before I've talked to him.
Okay, next item on the agenda is zoning text amendment. 1 of 2025, amend zoning ordinance to add new definitions and public art requirements.
New definitions of
Thank you, Chairperson Tremblay. So this zoning text amendment has gone through several study sessions, both with the Planning Commission and the Planning Commission and City Council. The goal of the amendment is to incorporate more public art throughout Farmington Hills by requiring it whenever there is an investment with a construction cost exceeding $2 million within one of the special study areas or as a part of a PUD. The ordinance includes placement requirements and outlines requirements for installation and maintenance, as well as exemptions from the public art requirement, which may be waived by the Planning Commission. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I know that we've gone through this text amendment quite a bit, so I wanted to keep it brief and send it to the Planning Commission.
Any questions? Julia?
Yeah, a statement I'd like to make, since this, the one amendment I was looking for, you did put in there and keep it out of residential neighborhoods, and I think the council agreed with that. And so, I mean, there's not a lot of property left to develop in our town. It's kind of interesting to be doing it at the end instead of the beginning, but I don't personally care. If this is what the council wants, as long as we don't have a bunch of orange telephone poles up along with Expressway, I'd be happy.
Nice.
That's in Southfield.
Yes.
It does have that exemption under B, under number 2 for public art required.
What about it?
It excludes single-family residential.
No, I know. I said that I said that I had asked for that and it got put in there.
Oh, I thought you were saying it was
the opposite. No, I'm glad that they actually put that.
I'm like, I don't see it in here.
out there. That wasn't in there to begin with, and I raised the issue that we shouldn't be putting this in a residential districts,
That's what Danielle talked about.
RA districts, because there's really no room for one there. And do you really want to have people coming into neighborhoods to go see the art without the concept that they might be checking out the neighborhoods for other purposes?
I thought we beat that horse to death.
Yeah, no, we did. They put it in there. I'm saying thank you for putting that in there. And I think the council also agreed that that was probably, when we had our joint meeting, that was not necessary for the RA districts.
This is a public hearing on this item.
I have a question.
Do you wish to speak to this item on changing the art ordinance? Okay. Therefore, I'm going to close the public hearing. It's back to the commission for a motion.
Oh, I wanted to ask a question. Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
When you raise the money for like the tree fund, and I think we said we're gonna make an art fund, how does that, like,
what if someone was trying to open up a small business in one of these areas? And so as a result, you think they should put in an art thing, but they don't have money for that. Can that money be of help to them, or is that not how that works?
No.
No?
It's a specified fund, isn't it, Tom?
It is, and as a general proposition, we are not permitted to give money, public monies, to private individuals. So there are exceptions to that rule. A Downtown Development Authority, the Corridor Improvement Authority, those kinds of bodies do sometimes give public funds to private entities. But the city generally, the city proper, we would not be able to turn those monies over for that. But, you know, I mean, we could look at whether the Corridor Improvement Authority could do that in their
In the
area.
form
In
of a
their
grant,
area.
you know.
They are permitted to do grants.
Typically, the city, not general.
Because what I'm trying to understand is what are we collecting the money for? If we're not going to actually pour it back into the act of getting the tree, act of getting the art.
It could go on public.
Public, yeah, public.
So we could put artwork in heritage.
Okay.
That's where it could get used.
The other thing is that they have to, the project has to be worth more than $2 million before the art fund kicks in.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
So if it's just a small business, chances are not building a building for $2 million.
I'm sure.
If they're just renting, it wouldn't kick in anyway.
I just want to understand, as we are putting this ordinance in, how the money is being poured back into the city. That's what
On public land by the city, as opposed to being given over to a private entity.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
I do.
The tree fund is.
Okay. My question is, I know there's a art council, but are they the only ones that's making the decisions as far as the public art requirements or what's accepted from the applicant? How is that process? How is that process for through the city with this art? Who makes those decisions and what's the process?
I don't know if they've set up.
And who agrees on whether the art piece, I believe
How's
there's a
that determined?
separate entity established, going to be established, a committee.
Will be.
Yes, so the planning commission would not review the art and say it's appropriate or not. They would just.
Separate.
It would be the dollar amount that's agreed on, and that's what the planning commission would be reviewing, but would not be responsible to say whether the art could be installed as proposed, the type of art. There's a separate commission going to be established.
Okay. And are these the only areas that's listed here where the art can go? Can there be added areas in the future, locations?
That's it, isn't it? What's written in the ordinance?
We can say no.
You could amend the ordinance.
These are the mandatory ones. If someone else wants to do something in a different zone, they can, but these are the ones that are mandatory.
Right.
But the planning commission has the authority to say you don't need to do it too. If it doesn't seem to fit into the area, we can say that you don't need art there. So we still have that authority.
If it meets one of the exemptions under 6 on page 3 of the draft, there's a list of exemptions that the planning commission could invoke.
And then as far as the funds, what happens if a business do start an art project and for whatever reasons they can't complete it? Has that been taken into consideration?
It would just be, it would be the same as not completing any other part of your site plan. It would be a required component, you know, in order to get your C of O, I imagine, just like any other portion of the site plan that would be required to be completed.
They won't be able to use the building until they finish the building.
To include the artwork.
Including the artwork,
As part
right.
of the building.
Certificate of
all that
occupancy would
goes.
not issue.
Okay.
That's the way to do it.
All right. You want to make a motion?
Okay. I recommend, I move to recommend to City Council that draft zoning text amendment 1, 2025 be approved.
Second. Yeah.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
You support it?
I did.
Thank you.
Okay, Miranda, I have a question for you, real quick. I remember reading in the capital improvements plan last January that there was work to be done on Colfax or someplace down, a major drain. Is that, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with it, but I do know that there is a culvert that they plan to complete in the next couple years.
I know.
Okay, how do you know?
The reason why I know is why I asked the question about who owns the creek. Because in my subdivision, we found that Minnow Pond, which runs through it off of the River Rouge, is owned by the county, and they've been doing like this, and we have retaining walls falling down, the water backs up, it overflows, it's flooded all of the houses, most of the houses that live on the commons, and so we had to cut swales into the center area. So we finally found out a couple of months ago, and when they came and they inspected and walked the area, they talked about all the different places following that creek that they're fixing, and Folsom Colfax area is one of them.
Yes.
And they're gonna fix it before they fix us. And when they get fixed, all their water is going to run into my subdivision. All of it.
I thought you looked up on 13 now.
I do. It comes, I don't know how it cuts, but it makes this weird cut.
It comes from 14 in Halsted and then cross country through some more homes, comes up west of the high school, right there at Mayfair and 13 Mile.
Yeah.
And then it goes down and it eventually flows into the big pond, a big
But
empty
it
space in front of the
cuts
high
through
school.
Foxgrove Road. It cuts through Foxgrove.
Yeah.
And when it cuts through Foxgrove, it ends up into our, what we call our main commons. And then it goes back up along Fern Hill, out into 13 Mile, and then cuts across 13 Mile and goes back up somewhere else. I don't know.
That was massive flooding back in the 80s.
Well, let me tell you, because it flooded my basement and I am not pleased, but that's how I know where. That's why I asked, because I was going to tell them, hey, not Eagle, call the county and have them come out and walk it, but.
Yeah, the Minnow Pond is a separate issue. It's kind of more of a drainage, it's like a natural drain that they've put in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
It's a little
they
different
call
than
it
the
Minnow
stream.
Pond, something, it's like Minnow Pond / something else.
Right.
But at any rate, they said Folsom Colfax area was gonna be done before we would be.
Yes.
No, okay.
Minnow Ponds was there as a detention area so that the area around between 12 and 13 won't flood anymore. That's the reason they put it there.
My house says different.
Okay, but that's why that big ditch was put in there, is to collect water so you don't get flooded
Yeah,
out. Didn't
but-
say it would work, that's why it was there.
But no one's been maintaining all of those creeks, and so the walls are falling in.
That's
The grounds are wearing away.
That's the Rouge River, we're in the Rouge River District, if you want to
Yes.
call it that. So there's a bunch of tributaries into it, but it's all part of the Rouge River Basin.
Okay, he wants to go.
You got one more person.
You got one more.
Next item on the agenda is cluster site plan 57-4-2025. The address is 28,000 West 9 Mile, also formerly known as Boys Republic.
Boys and
Not in
Girls
Inkster. Okay.
We just said public hearing.
Come on down.
No. Oh, yeah.
This is
Do we-
just a set.
Julie, you're going to do.
Oh, this
a
just
review
the
on
set?
Should we do a brief?
Sorry. Tonight's setting a public hearing?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was,
It's just to set it for public hearing.
okay. Oh, yes, okay, I'm sorry.
You'd like us to set up for a public hearing?
So the applicant is looking to set a public hearing tonight for another cluster development. It's currently zoned RA1. It's 79.61 acres and has Wellspring Lutheran Service Campus on it, which currently has 1- and 2-story buildings and athletic facilities with trails, but they're obviously looking to incorporate single-family homes onto this property. The cluster qualification was approved by the Planning Commission at the March 2025 meeting, based upon a finding that the parcel contains natural assets which would be preserved through the use of cluster development. In addition, the applicant didn't request the more intensive density option, but PC made the finding that it would comply with the 1.8 acre units per acre for one family cluster option in the RA1 district, which is the less dense of the cluster options. The applicant originally came in with a concept plan showing 52 attached units, and they've maintained that number of units with this plan. It has 52 units across 13 different buildings with 4 ranch units each. All of the units do have attached garages. There's 2 connections to 9 Mile. And then there's the preservation of an existing bridge that leads across the river to the interior portions of the site, which is noted as phase 2 on the site plans. And there is a concept for an additional 88 units to go on that portion of the site. However, they have not submitted a formal site plan for that portion of the site, and are only looking to, and we'll need to come back with a final site plan when they are ready to develop that portion. There are some wetland issues on the site that are generally avoided by the development, although a portion of wetland C is placed in a culvert on the western side of the site, and the detention pond in the southeast corner encroaches on a small portion of the existing wetland A. So as mentioned before, it qualifies with the 1.8 units per acre. So the lower density option would yield 143.52 units, and 91 additional units could be built on the site under this option. And so that 88 units that they proposed for the phase 2 would be consistent with the low density qualification that they've proposed for this development. As noted with the previous development, the cluster option allows for some relief from the dimensional standards. So they actually are not doing individual lots. So therefore, they're not really asking for relief, except for, none of these are associated with any kind of relief. They have a 76-foot front setback, 173-foot side setback, 43 on the west side, and very extensive, almost 2,000 square foot, or 2,000 foot rear setback. The buildings will be 22 and a half feet tall. Sorry, I'm trying not to belabor it too much because I know you're just setting a public hearing tonight. So I think that I do want to note that the main outstanding issue that we cited in the site plan was the transition area, similar to the other development that we reviewed tonight. They are required to provide a buffer adjacent to one family districts, and they have several different options for how they can effectively provide that transition. On the plans that proposed, they've only really used the required replacement trees as a buffer. So the Planning Commission may want to discuss the required buffer with the applicant, especially for the building and the driveway at the far east end of the site that is south of the major topographical change that begins around 400 feet into the site. And if the Planning Commission decides that additional screening is needed, it should describe exactly what it's looking for. Any additional trees will change the amount due to be paid into the tree fund, as trees required for a buffer can't be double counted as replacements and buffer trees. happy to answer any questions.
Can you do it quicker?
Yes, I will. Thank you for your time. I'm Lucas Driesinga, civil engineer with PEA Group. I believe you guys are familiar with the project based on the cluster qualifications process. So don't really want to take up any more of your time than I have to, but we think it's a nice project with the way that the river runs through the site. I do note that this is not the most current site plan from 730, which your letter's based on. I don't know if you have that available or not, but it's not very much different besides the fact that there's a boulevard entrance instead of just the single entrance there. We submitted site plans after the cluster approval to the city. We received comments from the planner and the engineering department. We revised those site plans based on those comments. And like the planner just mentioned, the only outstanding item on her letter was regarding the trees, I believe, and potential additional buffering trees. And then there were, I think, few outstanding items on engineering that we can work through in the engineering process. So,
Okay, are you demolishing all the structures on the site?
on the south side for phase one, yes.
And then you have to build the bridge before you can develop 2, right?
Yeah, the bridge would be a part of phase two.
Is that $1 million to do a bridge?
I don't know the exact number, but I think it'd be a lot, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for the proponent?
I have a question.
I need to get this gentleman's name again.
Lucas Driesinga, Driesenga.
I could never have done that, thank you.
No problem.
Have you talked to the some of the neighbors in the surrounding communities, so we don't have so that they understand what you're doing before they come in here and tell us why you're avoiding?
You're the worst person on earth.
Yeah, and that you're a bad builder, and that you're killing the salamanders.
Yes, I personally do not know. I have to ask my client with Eureka Development. He's the one that's developing the project here on behalf of Wellspring.
Yeah, but I'm just saying to you, if there are
It's more like
homes nearby, you might
it
want
would
to
be
talk.
worthwhile, yeah.
Yes.
No, I agree. I believe the site's no longer in use currently, and so they're
It
planning on
won't stop
developing these
people complaining about everything in the world, even though you tell them why
Yes.
beforehand, but.
No,
the
I
fact
agree.
is-
It was a long night to sit through, not the way I wanted to spend my wedding anniversary particularly.
Anniversary.
Yeah, then, you don't want to be hanging around with me on my birthday, because it ain't gonna be fun either. Okay.
I hear you.
Okay,
Any other questions?
motion?
Go ahead. I move that application for cluster site plan approval 57-4-2025 dated April the 24th, 2025, as revived July 30th, 2025, submitted by Eureka Development Group, be set for public hearing for the Planning Commissioner's next available regular meeting agenda.
Diane, what do you think that is?
The next meeting is October 16th.
Can you make it?
Yes, we can make it. It's very tight, but
Yeah, well, okay.
Support.
Yes, moved and supported, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're in October.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Happy anniversary. You're welcome.
And if you have to tell your wife that you were actually sitting in a room with a bunch of people, we'll back you up, okay?
If she was watching Channel 10, she saw us.
Okay. She understands.
Okay.
Okay, next item on the agenda is?
Yep. I move to approve the minutes from the August 21st, 2025 meeting.
There's support?
Support.
Been moved and supported, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, okay. Commissioner comments?
None.
I just wanted to, for those that didn't know, a person that had developed a lot of properties in our town, Ari Leibowitz, passed away about a week or so ago.
Oh, my gosh.
He did a lot of good work and other work in our town. And so his family's still in the business, but I read about Ari passing away.
Oh, wow.
People.
If it has the right
He was 80.
I'm sure he had the right
I
plan.
think that, I read it in the paper.
Still young. So it seems to me when we end up in these meetings where we're here a very long time for public comment, that the people that come in don't understand the master plan.
Of course.
Which then makes me ask the question that I can't ask them, is do they know the master plan? And would it be beneficial to the city in any way to remind them that there's a new master plan out? And if they would care to know anything about it, where they could find the information?
You mean like in the public notice to put?
I don't care where you do it.
reference, Whatever.
I don't care where you do it, but what was extremely clear tonight is that they don't know the master plan. Every argument they had literally were things we spent hours talking about in our meetings about what needed to change, right down to the size of their lots. So my mind was blown, because I'm like, did you come to any public meeting at the Hawk or anything? Maybe they didn't. Mary Newland did, because I saw her there. So I have to believe that some people in her neighborhood came too. So I feel like there are a number of areas in our town, which is not that big, that don't seem to understand that we have a new master plan that intends to develop the land that is not developed or has been overgrown for 100 years. The statement they made to this gentleman is not weird or just for jokes and giggles, because maybe not him, but that other large planning PUD that we're doing for the boys' home has the residents that live behind it saying, why are you getting rid of our woods? Those aren't woods, that's overgrown property. Yet we still have to sit here for the next 2 hours and listen to them complain about it. So
It's their chance to complain.
I understand that, but it's after 11. And they, and this is my chance to make a comment, and Barry and Dale try to set their expectations, and then they try to bring them back around to here is why. And I get it, you're gonna be mad because you're gonna be mad, but I feel like there is an incredibly large disconnect between the plan of the city and the community members. And some of them came to these meetings. So I don't know what we can do, but if y'all can have a conversation with the planning department, the economic development leader.
I don't think it's just the
city
master
council.
plan.
They just don't know the
It's the rules of the process. They met the requirements. It's just like a site plan.
It's true too.
You know, if it meets the requirements, we have to approve it. And, you know,
I just want to point I want to point something out that has nothing to do with this. New Marathon Station, the corner of Orchard Lake and 12, it hasn't gotten run over by a roller yet. Are all those signs approved? They have a heck of a lot of signs. And the one lit sign that has the price on it, it has a changing sign on it, and you can watch the pizza roll around. And I always thought there was Eric's position, you can't have moving pictures on a electric sign.
That's
And,
correct. What was the address? I can look into it.
12 Mile in Orchard Lake, it's like a mile up the street.
Southwest corner.
Southwest corner, it's a Marathon Station. It has
Brand new.
several
It just
signs
opened.
all over the property.
New one.
A brand new one. Well, it's reopened.
Yeah.
But they have at the very corner an electric sign where it's not just a sign that tells you what the prices are. It's actually a board that will show the prices, but it changes, shows the price of the gas, that says, we're open, and then it shows, grab a pizza. You see the pizza rolling around on the screen, and it goes back after that. And I always thought that when you change the pictures, you had to wait 15 seconds before you change the picture, whatever it might be. But there's actually a motion picture that's shown on this lit board. It's right on the corner there. It's the Marathon sign's on top. But on the building itself, it has at least 6 signs on the building.
Well, if they have separate tenant spaces, like some of the gas stations have, like Zingerman Coffee.
Yeah, they
that would
definitely
get
have
its
several.
own.
I don't know. It's a mini Sheets, okay? They don't have the parking, but they have the restaurant, they have the groceries, they have liquor. And they think they sell gas too. But the fact of the matter is, and they have a mini rest, they have a rest, I haven't been inside of it yet. You can't get to it real easily because they're working on the street, but I know that you can't have a sign that has a moving picture on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Talked about that one about, in a couple of our meetings about that.
Yeah, well,
Signs.
they're doing it, so.
That's a big or- But getting back to what Danielle was saying as far as the knowledge to educate the public beforehand, maybe before the public hearing, their expectations of what we offer and what our responsibilities are that is set forth to them ahead of time.
I've been doing this for
Instead of-
35
instead
years
of
and
after.
it hasn't changed in 35 years. Would you say that's correct, John?
May I make a motion to adjourn?
Sure.
Oh, could we just, Chair, would you please announce Marissa, or the new, or the planning commissioner who's resigned?
Marisa.
Yes, Marisa Varga is resigned from the commission for conflict of personal family items, so there will be an open seat that will be filled.
Good to know.
Do we vote
I
on
make a
adjourn?
motion, I made a
Made the
motion to adjourn.
Second,
So moved. Aye.
his part? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You, Diane.
Probably.
God.